Good morning, everyone. This is the Assiniboine Community Committee. Today is Thursday, October 31st, 2024. My name is Councillor Dobson. I'll be the chair today. We have with us Councillors Duncan and Councillors Lukes. From our clerk's department, we have Ms. Cohen, and from our public service, we have Mr. Golson and Ms. Savage. I would like to do our land and water acknowledgement. I would like to acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation and Treaty 3 territory. Before we go much further, I'd like to point out today is Halloween. And if you're driving out tonight, to be very careful for all the people, all the little ones walking around in costumes. So at this point, I would like someone to move the minutes of the September.
So
moved. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. I'll pass it on to you.
Okay, so first, the committee will hear delegations. First to speak is Kelly Ryback, to be heard with respect to report 7.
Good morning. Am I able to bring up my PowerPoint that I submitted?
Do you have it on a USB stick?
Yes.
Just keep it in there.
I think I'm missing
Sharing is just a point over. I need to share it.
Back on the Zoom. Applications. Sure.
Thank you.
Trouble.
Good morning, councillors and fellow delegates. 130 Allard Avenue. Just for record, I live along Allard Avenue, just east of this location for 32 years. I've also was raised north of this area, so I know it extremely well between the community club and the schools and surrounding areas. And I was first involved with this property going back to 2017 when the school division had their first attempt to sell it, which they subsequently did not, but they did later. Also want to go that we are, I speak for a few people, but for myself, not opposed to the application. We're not opposed to the rezoning. We're just having neighborhood concerns. And as this plan is now published, going forward to you for approval, it has had a few revisions for the positive in some regards. The first area this slide looks familiar to you is because I did present it last December, and also going back to a year ago, July, I spoke with the developer, and this is first concerning the entrance, the driveway into the property. There's only one per 70 units. And just a comparison, on Pontiac Bay, there's 30 residences, and it has it's a bay, so it has 2 points of entry and exit. The primary concern on this is the blockage of sight lines as we go to the new plan. That it has entrance signs on both sides of it and large trees and then bushes along the fence. That's right on the sidewalk. Secondly, the boulevard from the sidewalk to Allard Avenue is only 6 feet wide at this point. So just give you an idea of the proximity of what the road will be to this entrance. This is a very highly used sidewalk for pedestrians, cyclists, senior citizens on motorized scooters, and with electronic scooters and bikes. I've witnessed, especially this year, large groups of school kids going to Lincoln School, which is a middle school, using this sidewalk on their bikes and on their e-scooters, going at a very strong clip, and as many as 7-8 kids at a time. So I walk my dog past this point almost every day. I take my granddaughter along this sidewalk now, but you can tell that it is with 70 units and over 100 parking spots, this could be a heavily used area. As we look further into what this will be, only that I can tell by the submission that the signs will be 6 foot by 8 foot. That is extremely large to be right there at the sidewalk. They're on angles to the sidewalk. Behind those signs are 2 large trees, according to the plan. a Colorado blue spruce on one side and a Dakota pinnacle Japanese white birch on the other. These grow extremely tall with wide spreads. So when you look at that plan, it's almost completely blocked sightlines to those sidewalks. And as you approach the street, which is a very short distance, and we already have traffic concerns on Allard with quantity of traffic volume during business days, and also because Sansom to the south is a 30-kilometer zone. We get all the high school traffic and anybody wanting to avoid Sansom Street. The traffic concerns on Allard is a separate issue, but there'll be, that's why we need a very safe entrance with proper sight lines to the street and to the sidewalk. So that I'm hoping as the committee that you can address that today with the developer I would hope to improve that, because the opinion of the area is that this is unacceptable and dangerous. The driveway itself is 22 feet wide. Just for comparison's sake, that's 2 feet narrower than a standard residential road. That entrance also aligns with the back lane between two side streets. The issue here is that what we found in another neighborhood, that people start using the back lane more so they can pull right into the driveway. But the bigger issue is snow clearing from the back lane by a contractor or the city of Winnipeg. What they've been doing is pushing the snow onto the boulevard where that entrance will be. So now they'll be directing it just on either side of it, creating further big snow banks. And I want to remind you, the snow storage on this street is terrible, with only a 6-foot wide boulevard to handle both the sidewalk and the street. We don't know what the snow accumulation drifting will be, because with these new structures, we hope it will be less. But right now, we could have snow banks as high as 6 feet on this area. What happens is, a couple of times a year, the city has to send in the snow blowers because the plows get stuck. That's how much snow is accumulating on this sidewalk. And right now, they've had the luxury of blowing that snow onto the school property. They will not have that luxury once this development is in place, because you can't clear snow and put it on private property. Plus, they would be blowing in the multiple sidewalks that will be coming from the 2-story condos from that area. So now we're going to have even further snow blowing onto the snow banks between the sidewalk and the street. And what also happens is the city crew will come and clear the sidewalk, and then the street contractor will come and clear the street and push the snow into the sidewalk. Therefore, we've gone weeks without that sidewalk being passable. So the sidewalk snow clearing mostly is not the developer, or which will be the future condo board's concern. It'll be the city's concern, because it'll be extra snow onto the street snowbank. But a compounding problem now is you have multiple residential sidewalks being cleared to the Allard sidewalk, adding to the street snowbank. So, and when you look at going back to what the front entrance design is with the bushes all along, that's even going to compound the snow accumulation problems and the snow banking, snow clearing, ice management. So specifically, there are issues with the drive into the property. The other issue is right there is a hydro pole. That's not a hydro pole, sorry, that's a street lamp. That who's moving the street lamp and at whose cost? I know in another project, it was the responsibility of the developer to move a hydro pole because of the issue. Also, the issue is just when you get to the street as to what will be the curb radius. We have a problem just down the road from there at the Westwood Library / Allard Arena. The curb radius is so poor that vehicles, especially trucks, consistently drive over the curb and mess up the lot. At the rezoning meeting last December, we heard that earth excavation and movement won't be much of a problem, because most of it's remaining to build the grade up multiple feet, and the developer said similar to what's around the school. And at that point, when I had my rebuttal during the hearing, I stated, well, the only place it's built up is on the ends, not along the long sides of the school. The challenge, multiple challenges just with the excavation is if the property is to be at a higher grade than existing, then how does that affect the fencing, the 6-foot fencing going around the three sides? That will the fence be on the existing grade? Therefore, the decks will be halfway up the fence. And even for the concerns of the new owners, loss of privacy, but now just looking over the back lane and neighbors' yards. And then that's on the west side. On the east side, it's between the Allard Arena, where it could now become a popular desired path for people walking to the schoolyard and the community club. And that's a separate point to be made. The other item, just to clarify, you can't really see it in this picture, but there's a large engineered drainage swale leading to the sewer on Allard Avenue. That how would the drainage be affected, especially if it's raised? People who live on Bedson are concerned about overland flooding onto the back lane. It is already a mess. There are no sewer outlets on that back lane. That's on the west side. On the east side to the arena, especially if that now becomes the new desired path. It's already a wet area that could be compounded with extra drainage from the side yards. The yards on again, if they're going to be 3 feet higher off ground than existing and halfway up the fence, that the decks that are 8 feet. The lots on the west side are only 14 feet in depth. So you only have a 6-foot gap between the deck and the fence. So when people are on their deck, they're just for their concern that they're going to have cars whizzing by them down the back lane. That's another issue of traffic there. But then on the east side, if that becomes the new path there's still a lack of privacy for the new owners, but that could cause other issues. But the major concern is how is drainage going to be affected. I'm almost done if I can be granted.
What do you want, like 2 minutes?
I could probably be done in
2 minutes? Motion for
2 minutes. 2 minutes is fine, thank you.
Okay, all those in favor?
Okay.
All right, then my also concern at the hearing is that, I appreciate the developer making statements that they'll keep the streets cleaner than required. Secondly, that the developer made the statement there would be no construction parking during construction. This slide, I just want to show that the developer has not made a good commitment in maintaining the property. The furniture, that stayed there all winter, even though we brought that up earlier in the year. Graffiti has been a challenge and continues to be a challenge. They have covered some up, but some has remained for a very long time, especially on the backside, with garbage on the backside. Thirdly, grass maintenance has been almost non-existent during the summer. They cut it twice during the summer months, twice with complaints. I don't know if the developer was aware of the complaints, but shortly after complaints were made on 2 separate occasions, the grass was cut. But the last time the grass was cut was July 29th, but it was a very unsightly multiple for the duration of the summer. So I would like, if I implore the developer, I hope his intentions are good, but I hope the developer can do better from this day forward, especially during construction. I discussed the entrance, discussed the grade, traffic is an issue. Addressing the 3 Gs of garbage, graffiti, and grass. And this for a question for the city is, will the city prepare a new desired path? Because right now, the school kids and anybody going to community club, they walk through the property to get onto the club, and that's been going on for decades. That'll be closed off to them. So if the city plans to do something between if you look at the picture on the bottom left corner, that's the property between the Allard Arena and this development. That would likely become the new desired path unless the developer opens up the property for public pedestrian traffic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions?
Okay.
Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Ryback. Just a question. So you've lived in the area your whole life, is what you're telling us?
Within 2 kilometers of that, except for 3 years, yeah.
So I hear your concerns around additional traffic, but walk me through what it used to be like when Allard School existed, full of hundreds of kids. And Allard Arena was bumping and the Westwood Library was full and going all the time.
For those times, it's more, the traffic comes in spurts. When Allard School was open, a lot of kids just walked to school or they're bussed in. There wasn't extensive traffic. Even the police academy was open. We didn't notice a lot of traffic. The traffic problem that we have exists now. My concern is mostly during construction, because also what happens up at Rouge and Portage Avenue, there's a strip mall that has a convenience store, multiple restaurants, which also links up with a major shopping center that has drive-throughs, etc. But at Rouge, you can't turn left onto Portage to head west to Bedson to get to this property. So during the construction traffic, let's go get coffee at various places. They're going to be up and down Allard for coffee breaks, lunch times and that. But I just want to say, traffic in general is a problem. I would just want to make sure that there for the people buying here, it's going to be safe for them to get in and out. And it's going to be safe for anybody traveling or being a pedestrian or a cyclist. It's a very small area that requires clear sight lines. We're not challenging the new traffic that's coming in, even though, you know, and there's an area we don't need to go there today. It's just, this needs to be safe. Right now, it is wide open. There is nothing obstructing a view out of the existing drive to the in and out of the school. That has not been a problem. This new plan creates a problem because of the signs and the trees and the extra issues with snowbanking.
Yeah.
Just a follow-up, have you, I know you've advocated in the neighborhood for different things, but have you ever advocated for traffic calming devices on Allard?
We have spoken to, not yourself, but well, I don't know if my colleague in that has, but we have with other counselors in the area requesting, or at least speaking about having speed humps.
Have you canvassed the area at all, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
We have not. It's
Okay.
just been anecdotal.
Okay.
It's a possibility. in
I'll
the future,
support
Councillor.
you, through you, Mr. Chair, I'll support you in that process if you'd like to canvass the area and begin the phase to get traffic calming considered for Allard. I think it's a valid point that, you know, with the Westwood Library going nowhere and Allard Arena going nowhere and then a development coming in, I think it would make sense to have traffic calming on Allard.
Well, appreciate that. And as you know, we just had traffic calming fixed with the removal of potholes and the complete resurfacing. This is appreciated, but now it's created another issue. So,
I hear you. Okay, thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
All right.
okay, that's it. Thank you.
One more question.
Just a quick question here, or it's maybe more of a did you know? So I think this is a fantastic development going in. I've actually had the opportunity to work with these developers in my ward. Yeah, it is a major inconvenience when construction's going on. Like, there's no way around it. It's an inconvenience. But I think it's important for the area councillor to know who the basically site foreman is. That's what I do. I work with the site foreman always and the developer. And I have had very, very little problem with when you work with the developer and the site foreman. I've had very little problem with construction. Snow removal, well, you know, snow, right? There's issues wherever you put it. So it's condominium. Hopefully they'll be, you know, they'll probably have their own interior snow removal. And, you know, the city for sure, if nothing's going on, they're going to dump snow. But I think that'll all be taken into consideration. We can ask the proponent if they can move the two trees, the large trees, and put them somewhere else for site improvement. And like, we're not traffic engineers here. The Public Works Department wouldn't recommend or build something that they didn't believe wasn't safe. So, you know, I hear you on the sight lines, and we'll ask the proponent if they would consider that. And maybe the sign design or placement so it doesn't block the view. I hear you on that. I'm sure we all do. Yeah, I mean, it is too bad that people cut through there before, but now it's private property, so they can't really do that. They'll have to use the sidewalk. Can't get around that. So yeah, it's more of a, did you know? So what-
Well, I'm aware, Counselor, and I appreciate that, and I'm just asking for it's the developer that made the commitments of no street parking during construction. Up until 2 years ago, it was public property,
Mhm.
but the school division did have that entrance chained off.
Mhm.
The developer has not, and actually that turned into a joyriding site
Right,
and hangout site,
Right.
which we have asked and have brought that forward in previous. But I appreciate your opportunity, your statement that you'll look at the sightline issue. But to the city, we're now compounding the snowbank issue and the sightlines just from snowbanking, from clearing the street and the public sidewalk. I recognize that anything forward that once the units are all sold, it goes to a condo board. And condo boards want to make sure they're taking care of themselves, so they will address their own interior snow removal. But now, just to understand, and if you want pictures at a later date, we'll provide. It is walking through a tunnel on this, and Councillor Duncan is very familiar with this, that under past seasons, we've had 6-foot high snowbanks, but we've had the luxury of banking on both sides of the sidewalk. 50% of that luxury is gone. It is now going to be between a 6-foot depth between the sidewalk and the street. It's not an issue for the developer. The issue is now on the city, that there's going to have to be extra attention and extra banking removal going forward on a regular basis.
That's what we do citywide, like there's.
No, you don't. Not to the extent that this is going to be required.
Why is this gonna be worse than other parts of the area, other parts of the?
No, I have the corner lot. I know.
So why is it gonna be worse than any other where in the city where?
No, this is gonna be worse as it is on Allard
Mhm,
because of the amount of snow you're gonna add to the snowbank to the street.
mhm.
I'm the one that clears the snow on the corners so we can look around them. The city doesn't.
Mhm.
And I've asked the city on different delegations that there should be a new requirement of city clearing,
Mhm.
contractor clearing, that for a distance from the corner to be at a maximum height of 3 to 4 feet.
Mhm,
I have gone out multiple times during the winter
mhm.
to move snow so that people can see around the corner that I live on and so that I can to make it safe. The city and the contractors don't do it.
Okay, thank you very much. I think the point is well covered.
Yeah.
Well taken. Why don't you want them parking on the street?
No, they said, well, we don't. There's already stressed parking on those side streets.
Sure.
There's no parking on Allard in front of the property.
Mhm, mhm.
And it's the developer that said
Okay.
last December, there would be no parking on residential streets during construction by construction crews. And I'm very familiar with construction crews because I represent 3 generations of building and I grew up on construction sites.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, next is Tim Comack to be heard with respect to report 6. Sure. So Jackie Wilkie will be heard with respect to report 6.
I'll use-
One moment, he's just gonna pull this
Yeah,
one.
we'll do that
Okay,
to the,
are you using it?
I'm going to be using mine, yeah.
Okay, so there you go.
Crazy.
Brought my song sheet.
Okay.
One second while I get set up here, sorry.
Six.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Myself and Tim Comack are here today to discuss with you the plan approval that is up for what we call Bridgewater Center 2, which is Bridgewater Town Center Lot 9 at the corner of Bison and Center Street. This building is a mirror almost of the development to the east. Sorry, got to get my directions correct. On the other side of Center Street, and is working in conjunction with that development as well. We are planning the site here that you can see, which is 2 buildings of residential with a central courtyard and landscaping around the outside edges, central parking, as well as underground parking under the buildings. On the site, we have 204 units. We are meeting our requirements for landscape on the site with both shrub and trees around with broad landscape areas in front of the residential units. This plan is slightly different than the one that we had originally submitted in that we are also going for a variance that was in process at the same time. And that variance is being advertised right now, or the billboard is up. It's an administrative variance, and it will close in 2 weeks.
And what for? What's the variance?
The variances are for yards at the on the north side. The corner of the building is closer to the property line than is permitted, as well as on the east side, again, where we come, because Center Street and Bison aren't a perfect square, it comes closer on that corner. So we are bringing the entrance into that closer with that plaza. And then on the south side, again, where we are closer to the property where it has an angle on the west end, we're quite far away, but on the east end, we're fairly close to the property line on that corner. And then for parking, we have reduced length of stall off the back lane, 20 feet instead of 23 feet. And our parking number as well. We also have a parking management plan that has been submitted to work with this development as well as the development across the street. We're providing bicycle parking, fenced bicycle parking on this one, as well as bicycle parking at the parking stalls in the basement of this site. So where at the ends of the stalls, you have a rack to hang up your bike for those who have cars there. There's also extensive bicycle parking in the building across the street on the other side of Center Street, which will also be able to be used by this development. I'm just going to go down. So this is the main floor plan showing, it's a typical floor plan showing the various types of units throughout the site, throughout the building. The main entrances are each on the corners of the building, one facing out towards Bison and the south one facing out towards Center Street. The central courtyard allows views through the site into the to where the bicycle parking will be. There will be landscaping at the front edge to help screen the view of the parking in the back. These are the elevations of the building where it is has, you can see the entry. There's an entry feature with branding at the entry for each of the buildings. And then the balconies going across, and you can see the patios for the main floors as well. So there's direct walkout from each of those units out to the site, and then they have gates so they're able to access directly off the sidewalks. The two end views of the building have the stairs that come down on each side, coming out to the plaza space, which is also where the bicycle parking is. And then this is the views of the second building, which are pretty much the same as you're looking back in and across. And the bottom view here is the view that you would see along Center Street, not including the landscaping that would be in front of that. And then these are the canopies at each of the entrances, as well as the garbage enclosure that would be included on the backside on the back lane. Take some questions if you have.
Okay.
Thank you. Any questions?
Sure.
Councilor Lucas?
Okay, so great that we're here today. This is great. This is the second phase of hopefully the 3 phases. The first phase is underway. So just explain to me the facade, the outside, the skin compared to the other one that's being built.
This one is more Mahoney, I guess would be so it's got horizontal siding on it as opposed to a commercial feel to it. It's more of a residential feel to the building.
Are they going to look coordinated at all or no?
I believe there are two different looks on them,
Two
not
different looks?
Yeah.
Really?
two different sites, two different ideas on what should be, what's in there, so.
Okay. And then the main floor units are being built as commercial.
No, they're being built as residential, with the potential that if in the future, right now there isn't the market for commercial on the
Yeah.
street. They are not filling up the sites. They are not filling up the spaces that are there right now. If in the future, there is a need for commercial, these can be adapted into a commercial site.
And explain to me the canopy. Where are the canopies?
The canopies are,
I think, is that that's common with the other one, is it?
the other one has more of a longer, balustrade across the front because of the commercial on the main floor, so it's slightly different. These ones are, features at the doors,
Right, right,
on each of these
right.
pieces here, so you can see them better on the so this one, this is the north building,
Right.
where you can see it here, and then on the, sorry, I'm scrolling too fast, apologize. And then on the south building, it is, where the heck did it go? Sorry, this is the south building, and then the north building, you can see it coming out, it faces Bison, so there's two different sides to it. But they look, they're identical.
And explain to me again what the building is. What is it? A party board or what is it?
I'm gonna have to let Tim
Sure.
answer that one, sorry, I
Sure,
don't have that
okay.
answer.
Okay. And now this has gone through Naughty Designs, has it?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's gone through all of the approval processes.
Right.
And we're at the point of plan approval for the site and the variances that are being posted right now.
And the whole mullet container versus the bins.
The bins,
Hmm.
I believe that based on the requirements of the units right now and the pickup that they're looking at the bins with the enclosure as opposed to going for a variance for the garbage as well. Because again, the Mollocks and the in-grounds are another variance, so looking to not have that variance as well.
They're a variance for mullets.
Yes,
Really?
yes. The city of Winnipeg zoning bylaw actually requires a wood garbage enclosure. Not even brick or anything else, a wood
Changing.
garbage enclosure.
Okay. Okay. And so where are they? Can you point them out?
I
to me
can
where
point- So they are at the back corner here by Bison,
they're-
which is why it also has a landscape screening in front of it with a shrub bed and a tree, as well as the wood enclosure all the way around.
Okay. And then what's the open part there?
The open part,
That's just part of the design?
the open part,
I don't know, it looks like it's not one continuous U-shaped building? It's-
oh, yes, the central courtyard
Right.
is, yes, there's a central courtyard.
Right,
And that's where we have the stairs coming down on each side,
right,
as well as the bicycle racks in the fence enclosure on each
Right.
side as well. And also an open space that can be used by the residents. Or if, again, if it's ever commercial in the future, then there's that opportunity there as well for those spaces.
right. And what's the parking ratio?
Our parking ratio is at
Report here, but
1.1. I believe we are short on, we aren't at the 1.5. That is one of our variances that we're looking for.
and the variances, do they come to where do they come to?
No, they are posted, they're administrative.
Oh, they're administrative.
Yeah.
Okay,
Subject to appeal.
subject to appeal. Okay. All right. Well, we like what's going on out there, so probably won't happen. Okay. Yeah, I have no more questions. If Tim doesn't show up, I can ask him another time what the facade is. I mean, it is what it
You
is.
should be, right back.
Yeah. Okay. Here's a question. So you've got the exterior stairs. I don't
Mhm.
see that often. So why the exterior stairs?
I believe that was because of the length of the building. They needed to have an exterior function, and they didn't want to have to go all the way down to the basement on that one. So
But
That's-
why didn't they put them inside the building?
I believe it was a cost function as well. So that it was not within the floor plate of the building.
Mhm, mhm. Okay. All right, and then this may be a question for the public service, but maybe you can answer it. So we're trying to sort of have this, I guess, what is the surfacing material between the building and the sidewalk?
It varies with the location of what we're doing. We have sidewalks coming from from the main sidewalk to the building face for each unit.
Mhm.
So each unit has a sidewalk going directly to its
Right.
patio space.
Right.
In between that
Right.
is a mixture of landscaping. So we have
Right,
shrub beds or sod,
Right.
depending on where we are.
so who takes care of that if it's an
The-
apartment? The apartment owner?
Yes, the management, yes.
The management, the apartment management
Yes.
takes care of it. So there is no paving between the building and the sidewalk.
There's sidewalks.
There are sidewalks.
Yes.
But it's just landscaped
Well, but
with greenery and stuff.
there's the greenery, yeah, but it's not full, like, it's not solid
Right,
concrete. There's walkways so that you can walk from sidewalk to the building.
to the building, right. And then from the sidewalk to the road that's up to the city, I guess that.
That one we have the design for as well, where we have the, which of course is now not being shown, and I have to, sorry, it disappeared off of my screen.
Okay,
So, from the sidewalk to the road, there is in the center part where there's parking, it's paved, with a landscape area in the middle to meet the requirements for street trees. On each end, it is the standard that is on Center Street with the, sodded, boulevard, with the sidewalk crossings.
Okay.
All right,
perfect.
thank you.
Any further questions? Counselor Duncan, no questions? I was gonna ask about the bike racks, but you guys covered it. We're good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just trying to.
Okay, so, we've stopped the screen sharing, so you're good.
Okay, can I yank out my?
Next is Tim Comack to be heard with respect to report 6.
Luce, counselors, thanks for having us. So I'm not gonna speak much. Jackie, has been championing the, process thus far with very, high level. This is a continuation of Bridgewater 1, 2, and 3. There's 3 sites in total at Bison Drive and Center Street. BWC 1 is under construction with 176 suites, about 10,000 square feet of commercial. It's got an outdoor dog park, indoor dog area, business center, transit hub, fitness and play area. BWC 2 adds additional amenities. That's all co-shared. It's the vision for the site. So there's 6 buildings in total, co-sharing. The BWC 2 site will add a gymnasium and a games room to the mix. As mentioned, on BWC 1, there's car sharing, e-bikes, and a huge amount of additional parking. We're 1.64 on the ratio there. So there was an over dedication of parking. One of the nice things about that site is it's flanked on all sides by lanes. So we're able to create a lot of additional parking on that site, and it's a little bit longer in size and a little bit deeper as well. This site doesn't have the same attributes, so we don't have a flankage lane on one side, and so managing the parking was a little bit more challenging. We have a car share and parking management plan in place between the 2 sites, so the contracts have been signed and shared and distributed to the city. And BWC 1 probably has the largest underground parking area in the entire Bridgewater neighborhood. And so a lot of that underground availability will be shared amongst the 3 sites, the 6 buildings. And we did that on purpose because of the size of the site. Same with surface parking. It's got a very large surface parking area. In there, we got 289 parking stalls for 176 suites. Bridgewater One's mostly one bedroom and bachelors, so understanding the loads that you usually get from bachelors and one bedrooms, I think we can agree that there's a substantial amount of parking there. We've socialized this. We've met over a year with all members of council, especially Councillor Lukes, has been great to work with, as well as the planning department. We also have a list of people that have reached out to us over the last couple of years while we're doing Bridgewater One. So we've communicated with them as well to share. Most of them are just people that back onto the sites along the lanes and stuff like that. It will be an MLI select building, so there's 10 to 15% of the suites will be affordable. We extend that to the 20-year period. We always do that. And we already achieved tier 1 energy efficiency, whether or not we don't have to, but we already do through our specifications. The 204 units, 100 of them are one bedroom, 99 are one bedroom, 58 are bachelor, 46 are two beds, and then there's 6 oversized suites, so 3-bedroom suites for divorced parents, new families, whatever you might want to add into that. Project's 60 million roughly, so it's a major investment in housing. It's a continuation of the Bridgewater neighborhood plan that we put together for what's called the Epicenter. This is Epicenter 3 and 4, and will be shovel ready for 2025. I do believe that the variances that we're asking for, we've achieved them in many other locations, and we'll continue to invest in making sure that what we're doing is of the highest quality. Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, just update us on the facade, the skin, what's outside, what does it look like?
So it's going to match Bridgewater One, and so the aesthetic is the same. Some development changes that do exist here is that we've got more of a curvature in the Bridgewater One site. This site is a little bit more square. So from an articulation perspective, this building will be a little bit more angular, and that's just a combination of good construction efficiency plus the shape and dimensions of the site. Underground parking, wood frame construction above, surface parking at the rear off the lane, fronting along the sidewalk, quite tight to the sidewalk. We're trying to get that community-based engagement going, eyes on the street, SEPTED policies. Grade level is designed for residential suites that can be eventually at some point flipped to commercial use. We certainly have our eye on that, and we are working deeply to fill up the commercial space on BWC 1. Same considerations that we're asking for in that regard have been provided to other developers directly down the street and across the street. So nothing that we're doing again is trailblazing. I hate to say it, but this is as widget as it gets.
Okay, so is it like hardy board or?
The materials that we're utilizing are a combination of stone, so masonry brick, hardy, siding, and then some EIFS as well. And then the balcony treatments are of a higher quality because of the requirements through the Bridgewater neighborhoods approval process. So Natty has reviewed the concept and has signed off on the aesthetic of the building. And this aesthetic matches the aesthetic for what was already approved.
Mhm.
So it's all going to be very similar. When you stand at Bison, notwithstanding the one site, you'll look and see 6 very similar buildings that'll have.
Right, so you're kind of coordinating the
Yep.
look and feel of the whole epicenter.
We want the residents in any one of the 6 buildings to understand that they're part of a broader
Right,
community of,
right.
Roughly 600 suites. We want people crossing the street using the amenities that are there and, enjoying the use of the entire collective community of buildings. So yeah, we want it to kind of be identifiable. All of them have that exterior staircase that I kind of mimic off like the New York staircase. In the courtyard in between, we didn't build the tunnel that a lot of the other groups have done, which means we gave up some suites on the vertical.
Mhm.
We found other ways to achieve those densities and actually go above those densities. And in doing that, that courtyard that we've created is quite welcoming and also breaks up the site a little bit so that you don't have this big dominating facade.
Yeah, the epicenter one, the design and layout on the roundabout is spectacular, right? Like it's under construction and lots of chaos, but you can just see it's going to be beautiful. Yeah, it's a huge investment that you're making. So thank you very much. It's a big commitment and it's going to be fantastic. So thank you.
Thank
I
you.
don't have any more questions.
Seeing no further questions, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is Dan Shaw to be heard with respect to report 8.
I'm sorry, I'm new to this process. I don't know that I had to be held accountable for my approach to my house. I live at 7116 Municipal Road in Charleswood. And I wrote a letter of intent for a non-conforming driveway approach. And I said, to whom it may concern, we are applying for a non-conforming approach because we want to be able to drive straight out of our attached garage. And we also want to drive out straight out of a detached garage without hindrances or curves that make it difficult to maneuver past existing driveway gates and to prevent the deer from coming into our backyard. So I'm sorry, that's all I have, really. Oh, yes.
Councillor Duncan, go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming all the way down here today, Mr. Shaw, and this is being recommended by the public service. So with the support of the committee, we will be able to grant you that non-conforming approach.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time today. Appreciate you coming here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, so next is Miles Kraut to be heard with respect to report 7.
Just step over.
Okay, we'll move on to Yaron Walter.
Literally, we take a TV time out.
We'll have to 2 seconds.
Yes.
Yeah. I have the program.
Yep.
There are piles of like.
Yeah, I didn't go over there, didn't get one. Some of I should have gone on this.
Yeah.
This is hard. No, come on. No.
You can have a seat and you have up to
Thanks.
10 minutes for your presentation.
Appreciate it. Can I hand out this couple of these?
They were not submitted to the clerk
No.
in
Okay,
advance of the meeting.
no problem.
Was it the submission that came forward?
It's just a path that we.
I think that's on the,
I submitted the path.
Oh, sure.
We have it.
Yeah.
You got it.
that's okay, please, thank you. Yeah, it's on the republished agenda, but it was submitted under Daniel McGibbon.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Appreciate your time. Thank you very much. So there was some points raised this morning that were previously raised at our zoning hearing. And I believe they were already addressed, but I'm happy to go through them again. Regarding the entrance, once again, this was a point that was raised originally at our zoning hearing, and we originally asked for 2 entrances. That was our original plan when we submitted a pre-application to the City of Winnipeg's departments. Public Works decided that wasn't the safest way to do things. They wanted a single entrance. They told us exactly where they wanted it and how wide they wanted it. We did exactly what they had said, and that's how we came to just the 1 entrance for this development. In terms of the entrance, once again, there will be a stop sign put in for our residents before they enter the sidewalk. There will be a stop sign there, so they'll stop, look both ways, make sure there's no pedestrians or cars coming before they proceed. We did propose signage. We are willing to just remove the signage completely if that's something that you guys are asking for. It just has their addresses on it. We can remove them. We can make them smaller. We can make them 4 feet off the ground if need be. Really, it's not written in stone. So in terms of the signage, that was just one architectural rendering on what we thought would look really nice. But if you guys feel it's not safe or it's impeding traffic or pedestrians in any way, we're more than willing to adapt our signage to accommodate. There is a fence on either side of the entrance. That fence is 4 feet high and it's wrought iron. You can see right through it. So it's not a solid wood fence. The pedestrians and the cars will definitely be able to see through it. That's for aesthetics. And once again, it was asked for by property and planning. They like that type of fence there, 4-foot high wrought iron fence. They thought was the best fit, and we're happy to do that. So there's that. Snow, snow in Winnipeg is an issue. Anywhere there's sidewalks, it needs to be piled up, it needs to be removed. This project, there'll be 71 units. As such, we'll be generating lots more revenue to remove snow from sidewalks and so on. So a lot of more property taxes. So we'll have hopefully money in the budget now to get that snow out of there if it builds up. Snow is snow. There's no magic pill to remove it all or melt it all. So it does sometimes needs to be hauled away or piled up in appropriate places. I'm confident that Public Works knows exactly how to do that. They've been dealing with this now in Winnipeg for almost 200 years. So I'm confident that they can come up with a good plan as removing the snow or piling it up in a more appropriate place. With regards to the way the site has been looked after, yes, graffiti is an issue. We have security 24 hours a day at our site, and I have a guy with a bucket of paint, and all he's doing is running around covering up graffiti. So I think we're doing a really good job removing the graffiti. There was a lot more graffiti on the building before we purchased it. It's a derelict building, and now it's being maintained. With respect to lawn cutting, yeah, we dropped the ball one time. I'll take responsibility for that. Since then, we hired a property maintenance company. They measure how high the grass gets and cuts it on appropriate time. But yeah, the first time around, kind of made a mistake, kind of slipped through the cracks. My apologies. But since then, we did hire a property maintenance company that has been looking after it, I think, quite well. With regards to parking, first of all, yes, there is around 144 spots for 71 units, but that's because they don't take into account the driveways which cars park on. Once again, this was raised and answered at our zoning hearing. We were approved. And so we actually have 255 parking spots when you include the driveways for our development, which is over 3 spots per door. So well exceeding the 1.5 spots per door, we have over 3 spots per door. Regarding parking on the property during construction, this is a bare land condominium development. What that means is that it's not built all at once. It's not like an apartment style condo where it all gets built at once and all the trades are working, tripping over each other. We build certain areas at a time. So for our development, we are lucky enough to have pre-sold 40 out of the 71 units already. By the way, the vast majority of our new purchasers live within the area, just within a few blocks, and they're really excited for their new homes to be built. So basically what we do is we start and we build the center of the development. So we dig a huge pit here and we put in all the basements right in the center. So all the tradespeople will be parking all around our site. So utilizing 3 acres of parking while we're building 2 acres essentially. So I maintain that there's no reason for any tradespeople to be parking on the street when they can park just a few feet away from where they'll be working right on site. Driveways. I think I've covered the majority of the concerns that have been raised again. And I'd like to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Councillor Duncan, seeing that's your ward.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor.
Mine was more just the visibility coming out of maybe having those signs there. But the signs are going to be it's going to be on your property.
Okay.
Then there'll be the sidewalk. Then there'll be the right of way. So people will come out but maybe they won't see who's on the sidewalk. But I don't know. Like, I guess if my comment would be to try and either make them lower and not block visibility, or put a nice thing on the wrought iron fence.
Sure.
Like, I'm just thinking of all the ones that I've seen in the area, that I work in. Some are on the fences, some are little structure things.
Yeah,
Like your
honestly,
proposal.
I could remove the signs and we can find a different way of advertising the addresses of the community.
Like they are, it is nice because it gives it that sort of.
We liked it because we had our fantastic architect came up with these beautiful signs. But if it's imposing or in any way dangerous, I mean, we'll just move them or get rid of them completely.
Yeah, well, so that's a community concern. It is, we're hearing it as a concern,
Yeah.
so we'd like to think you guys would do something that, is not gonna block the view of
Absolutely.
the sidewalk traffic and the vehicular traffic, so, and the trees, I'd say just maybe relocate so that they don't really block don't eliminate, just relocate,
I agree with you.
yeah.
Yeah, the tree shouldn't be in a place where it creates any type of disturbance or isn't safe.
Yeah.
So
No, this is a great project, like, it's.
thank you.
I think you should have gone higher and more, but that's me, so. Okay, I have no more questions.
Okay, Counselor Duncan.
Yeah, just a comment around Councillor Luke's thoughts on the sign. I mean, I think it's important to identify, this new community. I think the signs will add a nice look to it. I'm sure that you folks and your design firms can figure this out to keep the look. Maybe move them back a little bit from the entrances, but let's not scale this back so that it's not something that's a high-end product that you've advertised to the community. I think it's important to have that.
I appreciate that. So why don't we'll revisit
Sure.
the signs. My team is here right now.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
we'll revisit the signs. We'll ensure that they're in the appropriate location and the appropriate size and shape
Yep.
as to not create any type of
Perfect.
issues.
So some of the concerns that I've heard from the folks that are on Bedson backing on to the back lane that will be the back of your western units there. Tell me what the trees are going to look like in the backyards of your properties of condominiums.
Yeah, so our plan is to line the backyards of those units, the west side units, with cedar trees.
Okay.
And we can space them so there's a lot of privacy created. We've always tried to maintain our privacy without fencing. We try to use vegetation. So I found in our past projects that when you line up cedar trees, they don't have leaves essentially that fall in the winter. So it maintains the privacy throughout all the months. And you can put them in such a manner where they grow and create like a wall of green. And that's the plan for this, for that area.
So with the back decks, and obviously we know cedars can grow very high.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to feel like anybody's privacy is being intruded upon there.
Like our residents? No. I mean, they have a backyard.
Yeah.
They have a deck.
Yeah.
There's a fence, and in front of the fence, that'll be lined with those cedar trees. So no, that shouldn't be an issue. And with regards to elevation.
And then there's a back lane, and then there's a fence, and in some cases, most cases, a garage.
The neighbor's
Yeah.
garage, yes.
Yeah.
Which we would have put in those garages to access our development, but the neighbors didn't want a back lane that had a garage on either side. So instead, we reworked our development so the garages would be in the front of the home, so we wouldn't have to utilize the back lane to access our development for the residents. I also should mention one more thing that I actually forgot. I didn't ask this as a question. Yeah, I'm sure you will next. But it's regards to water,
Yes, I was going to say land drainage.
land drainage.
What's required by the city here? I went and walked the site with residents there. I get it. The flow is to Allard there. There's a manhole there that takes water in. There's lots of standing water that exists. I'm assuming that some of those will be mitigated by the actual development having proper drainage, but what are other requirements that the city has you on for?
So the city looks at what's called the absorption rate. So in other words, now it's all a bunch of green grass essentially. So when it rains, it gets soaked into the earth and there shouldn't be any issues. We're building something on top of that. So we're putting roofs there and a structure. So the absorption rate changes significantly. So we need to find a place where we're going to do with all the runoff water. We can't just throw it right into the sewer system because they look at something called the 50-year storm scenario. So that is the most rain that's ever been calculated in at one time in the last 50 years. We need to be able to house that on site before it gets distributed into the sewer system. So what they've designed was these huge, massive holding tanks that are buried underneath the properties. So these goes under the road. So when all the runoff water comes from the eaves, troughs, and sub pumps and so on, it goes into these large holding basins, essentially made of plastic under the ground. And then it's kind of like an egg crate shaped. And when one overflows, it moves to the next level and then moves to the next level. And then over the course of a couple of weeks, all of this water gets put into the sewer system. So it gets put in slowly. So it doesn't happen all at once during that big rain scenario. It gets fed in slowly over the course of a few weeks. So this has all been worked by the Water and Waste Department, as well as our team. And we've come with the plan, which we've submitted to Water and Waste for their approval. Once we get their approval, we're working with them right now, then we implement these huge bins. So the runoff water, it's not like a typical home where it just goes and runs off onto the neighbor's street. It goes into our own catch basins, which then gets put into the sewer system over time. That makes sense.
Just a few more, Mr. Chair. There was mention by the delegation about a hydro pole. Are you familiar with this? No. Okay. Typically in developments like this, if there's work that's to be done or a movement of a hydro pole, are you familiar with the process of that? I'm not. I can ask the public service as well, but if you're not, that's fine.
No, do we have to move any hydro poles, you know?
Okay, I can follow up with the department on it as well. I have two other pieces here, the pathway piece. So just so our viewers and those that will watch later are familiar, the pedestrian traffic, typically children, have historically walked across both school sites. To go to either one. Now it's only Sampson School that has it. I see the submission here, but not everybody looks at these submissions. Is there something that can be essentially, without saying written in stone, that the condo development would be required to allow for this pedestrian path on the east side within the development?
This path has always been opened. The Public Works and the Property and Planning Department wanted it there. So this was part of our plan originally. We didn't just add this path in; it's always been there, and it was for that reason. So it's an open path for them. Now, are you asking if we can put something in the condominium bylaw that says that Condo Corp can't close it? Something like that?
Is it on your property? It's private property?
Yeah, it's on private.
You're just gonna leave it open and let people
Just
wander
leave
through
it on
it?
open, yeah. That's what we've done with lots of our developments, like the annex.
Yeah.
They can just walk right through. The university students just walk right through it.
They're not condos.
The annex, yeah, they are.
All of them in the annex are,
Yeah,
right?
300
Okay.
of them, yeah. Some of them are like, I sold to investors
Yeah.
who then rent them out, but yeah, they're condos, yeah.
Okay. So this is, for those that listen later, under item 7, submission by Daniel McGibbon, illustrates a pedestrian path on the east side with a gate to Allard and a gate to the school field. My final question, I believe, is just around the demo of the existing Allard school site and concerns, and rightfully so, about the asbestos in that building. And can you explain to the community and to this committee exactly how that is going to be dealt with and ensure that that's not something that folks are going to be affected by in the surrounding neighborhood?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yes, the school has asbestos in it. Back in the day, they use it as building materials and insulation. So there are two companies that are hired. One is the demolition company and one is the remediation company. When we apply for our demolition permit, the province gets involved and they work with the remediation company to ensure that it gets remediated appropriately before the demolition takes place. So my understanding is they go in, they remove the asbestos within the school. They put them in these big plastic bags. They seal up the plastic bags and they take the plastic bags to site where it gets disposed of appropriately, that the province looks after. So when you apply for the demolition permit, that is part of the process, the remediation of the asbestos, and it gets looked after, like I said, by the province and the remediation company.
So the concern of the neighborhood about this asbestos being out in the air and floating throughout there, which, I mean, if we're taking down a building, I could see that. I don't necessarily agree with that theory, but we're not going to see any huge collapse of the building where everything goes everywhere.
Right, before the building gets demolished, there's no asbestos in the building anymore. So first it gets remediated within the building itself. Then it gets the all clear, and then the building gets demolished. So the process is expensive and takes a lot longer than a typical demolition.
Right.
Like it's a 3-month process, and is like 5 times the cost of a normal demolition process.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, my third and final question. Is there a timeline on when the community can expect this build and demo to start?
Yeah, there is. So where we are right now is we're just in the process of locking down all the trades. So I'm negotiating with them right now. Once we get our fixed price contract from our builder, which is LD Builders, which we should have in about a week, then we get our construction financing in order. So to answer your question, you're looking at about February at the latest. Thank you.
Hey, any further questions? Thank you very much for your presentation.
my pleasure.
That was great.
Thanks for your time.
And the last delegate is Yaren Walter, to be heard with respect to report 7.
Morning.
Morning.
Not to be redundant, I'll just quickly reinforce a few points that Miles made there, just on the technical side of things. Number one, signage. We have already a 4.5 foot high sign that's on the boards we can replace that without a problem. It will probably just be a pediment of some sort that's just carved out of stone or something along those lines. So that'll take care of sight lines. As far as elevations of the site that the gentleman raised earlier, when we first started the site, there was some concerns about drainage within the site. There was some concerns about elevations and the existing sewer elevations and getting actual positive drainage with our toilets and our water and whatnot. We thought we were raising the site. That was omitted from the plans prior to our last hearing itself. So it is the site will in essence stay flat. If anything will be burned up around the sides, all water will be contained within. Miles had mentioned that there's going to be water storage below the roads. It's likely not going to be below the roads per se at this point. It's likely between a couple of buildings in that center area he talked about was being excavated. It's a swale sort of in between there. The equivalency of the water storage is about 7 swimming pools. So it's about, I think it's 100,000 gallons. So a lot of water being stored there. In addition to, there's also a land drainage system running right through our site. So it's 410 feet long, 4.5 foot wide diameter. So that's also storing water within our site. So there is ample water storage, and it will be burned up around the side. So water will be maintained inside the site. There was conversations with the trees along the back lane. We're in the middle right now of negotiating with Hydro. There is an easement along there where they don't want trees to go past 12 or 14 feet because of servicing of the line that is actually servicing the houses across the lane. So we're trying to see what our maximum height is. We are trying to push them high, but as Miles mentioned, it'll probably be cedars. It'll probably be within 12 to 14 feet. But if our site remains flat, which is a non-issue at that point, so it's not being raised up 3 feet as anticipated. That's really all I have to add. Oh, and as far as the asbestos is concerned and the remediation itself, that building, there's a lot of asbestos in there. It will likely be bubbled. It'll just be completely encased while they remove to the remediation. And at that point, the demolition will take place after the fact. That's really it. If there's any questions.
Any questions? No, I think we've covered everything. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Your delegations. Yep.
Okay, now we're for
We do,
moving on.
we do need to start the public hearing by 10:59 at the latest. Just so
Maybe we can
ladies-
whip through all the agenda items.
Yeah, that's fair.
I have to leave like at 12 for
Yeah,
a
we can do that.
thing, so we can go through this.
Do you want to just do a few and then
No, let's try
then
them all.
pause?
Let's try to get through.
Let's try them all.
Okay, a lot of these are from mine, so could someone else take the chair?
I'll take the chair if you want.
Sure.
Okay,
All right,
okay, item number 1, citizen member appointments, the Cinnabon Library Advisory Committee.
okay. I would like to move that, the 4 people, now apologize if I get their names wrong,
Or for the Assiniboia Library.
for the Assiniboine Library,
I think there are only 3
or
vacancies.
2, pardon me, there's 2 for the Assiniboine Library.
Okay.
And that would be. I'm apologizing in advance, because I'll probably get their names wrong. Is Shanna Shukla and Leanne Lack. Those are the 2 that, I would like to put forward.
Okay, and there's no third one then?
I think there were only 2.
There was only 2.
Got it.
Minute.
Okay, so those are the names that have been put forward. So I guess I'll call the question. All in favor of those names for the citizen member appointments?
I,
Okay, carried. Another one for item number 2, citizen.
item number 2 would be the Granville Mill. At this time, I would like to do a layover to our next meeting for this particular
Yep.
group.
Okay, councilors requesting a layover for item number 2. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Item number 3, citizen member appointment to the St. James Assiniboia Museum Board.
Okay, and again, there's 4 people listed, or 5 people that were put forward, but we can only pick 4. So
Right.
the 4 would be Donna Johnson,
Mhm,
Mary Longbottom, Barbara Nepanak,
mhm.
and Ingrid Niznik. I
Okay.
hope I pronounced those correctly.
Okay, all right, so,
Those are the 4 I proposed.
okay, any opposition or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Okay.
Okay,
Now, if I could have the chair
yeah,
back.
throw it back to you.
Request for new street names to be added to the Assiniboine Community Committee Street Name Reserve List.
Hmm. Okay, so these are the following names to be added. Lots of names here, looking them over. All right, so it's in, I mean, it's the communal Assiniboine street name list. So I'll make a motion to accept these.
Accept the Winnipeg
Oh,
Public Service
No, wait a
recommendation.
minute here.
Councillor Duncan.
Yeah,
would you like to speak?
I just wanted to let committee know that I circulated new business that would address some concerns that I put forward at the last meeting, but I'd be supportive of motion to approve these as well.
Okay,
A motion to accept or approve the Winnipeg Public Service recommendation. All those in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Opposed, carried.
okay. Okay. All right,
Number 5, plan approval 2027 Pembina Highway.
yeah, I'm familiar with this, but if the public service wants to talk about it.
Sure, very quickly. This is a McDonald's restaurant. It's been here for a number of years. They're just doing a small building addition, approximately 160 square feet. So that allows a new garbage compactor that's indoors. It's located on the west side of the building. We've looked at it. The cladding materials and so forth match what the existing building has. So we're for this.
Yeah, this is great. They're doing renovations and spiffing the place up, so I'm supportive of this. So move a motion to accept the public services recommendation.
All those to approve?
Okay, aye.
Opposed, carried. Thank you. Plan approval Center Street.
Yes, very exciting. Onward. Very exciting. I'm supportive of this. I've been familiar with it for a few years now, and I'm thrilled to see it moving forward. It's going to add more population to Bridgewater Center. It's was proposed and now it's coming into reality. highly needed, lots of housing, a percentage affordable, which is positive. Good design with the 3 units that they're building. And yeah, very supportive, very pleased. So motion to approve the public services recommendations.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Item number 7 is plan approval, 130 Allard Avenue.
One question for the public service. Any comment on the hydro pole?
Yeah, those are along the lane. It looks like they are within the lane property. Just looking at our mapping system. The hydro poles might encroach into that, like, you know, the overhead crossbar, might be within their property.
Okay.
As part of permit application, that would get reviewed by hydro to make sure there's no issues with what they're building.
Okay, so to be reviewed by hydro.
Yeah.
I guess just as one other question regarding some of the concerns expressed for the signage in the front, was that something that you folks reviewed, and do you have any concerns?
We don't, or in our review, that didn't come up as a concern.
Thank you. I will move the Winnipeg Public Service recommendation.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Item number 8, non-conforming approach, 716 Municipal Road.
Thank you. I will move, and again, thank Mr. Shaw for coming out today to give a couple words, and appreciate people coming down here, although it seems unnecessary. Nice to see them in person. So moved.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Now we have a couple of motions.
Supporting comments for that.
Yeah, it's supporting comments. Go for it.
Yeah, so as the resident had identified, to access the garage, that it's not out of context with the neighborhood, and that the public service is supportive.
I'll make a motion to address 2 new business items.
Sorry, we'll just need a
No.
motion to
Motion,
approve those supporting comments.
yeah. To approve those.
A motion to approve.
Okay.
So
Sorry, Councillor Duncan.
Yep.
moved.
Yep.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Now I'm looking for new business. Okay, motion for 2 new business items.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we want to, okay, all those in favor of the motion to suspend the rules to have the 2 items put in?
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye. You want
Opposed,
to talk about
carried.
it right now?
It's carried. Could we, I'm not sure if we have enough time. I think we should pause this meeting and go
We have
into
enough
our
time?
hearing stage.
We have enough time,
We
don't we?
only have 4 minutes.
They've been circulated to the committee, so if you'd like to speak to them, it is getting a bit tight, but if you'd like to just move them. we can
Okay,
just
then
do that.
I'm okay with my motion.
For the first motion from Councillor Dobson, I'll just read the resolve. Therefore be it resolved that the Standing Policy Committee on Property and Development be requested to direct the public service to report back on the inclusion of plans for accessible family change rooms as part of this St. James Civic Center expansion.
Yeah, I'm supportive of that.
Supportive, yeah.
Okay,
I can't believe they don't.
I don't believe I can be the chair for that, can I?
correct.
Okay, you,
So,
I move this.
all in favor?
aye.
I,
Opposed, and that is carried.
Yeah.
Move on to our second item. I'll pass it back to Councillor Dobbs.
all right.
And the second motion from Councillor Duncan is therefore be it resolved that the Standing Policy Committee on Property and Development be requested to direct the Winnipeg Public Service to report back on amending the street names bylaw number 115 of 2011 to include a condition to stipulate that community committees must not add names of sitting elected officials to the street name reserve list.
Just one comment on this. This is to identify that it's not only our Winnipeg municipal councillors. This would also identify provincial and federal sitting elected officials. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Okay, so councillors, I'm just going to admit one individual from the Zoom meeting into in the Zoom waiting room into the meeting.
For the hearings.
For the hearings, and then that's the start of the script.
Are we able to take a quick?
I would
We have
suggest
to
No, we started first. Okay, first off, we have to adjourn the meeting.
we should start the meeting and then the committee can adjourn and have a quick recess if they'd like.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. This is the Assiniboine Community Committee meeting. This is the hearings portion. I have with have with me, I'm the chair today. We have Councilors Luce and Councilors Duncan. We have our clerk, Leah Cohen. And we have Mr. Golston with us. I'm gonna do I have to do land and water? Oh, I've already done it.
Yeah.
We're good.
Okay, so in accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, the process the committee will follow is the applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the application. Next, those registered in opposition are heard, followed by those registered for information. Finally, the applicant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made. However, no new information is permitted. Please note that when your name is called, it is your opportunity to speak. However, you are not obligated to do so. For a more in-depth overview of the public hearing process and other information pertaining to what happens before, during, and after a public hearing, please consult the City Clerk's Department website. Please note that all public hearings are recorded and will be part of the public record. Should you have any questions after the hearings have concluded, please contact the City Clerk's Department. Item 1 is a subdivision and rezoning at 199 Parkview Street under file DASZ 42 of 2024. In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, this is a combined hearing and the following item will also be heard at the same time. Namely, item 2 is a variance at 199 Parkview Street under file DAB 186853 of 2024D. Please note additional communications were received in support of and in opposition to the matter after the agenda was published, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. If any of the Zoom participants are currently watching the live meeting on YouTube, please mute the YouTube audio now.
Councilor Duncan.
Chair, can we take a brief recess, please?
Okay, we're gonna do a 5 minute brief personal break. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. We're back. The Assembly Community Committee hearings.
Yes, okay, so we'll start with the applicant, John Wintrip, who's here in person.
Do you need an intro?
Oh, sorry.
Jump, I got there.
You don't need it, that's fine too. I'll thank you, Madam Clerk. I'll give a quick introduction here to these two files. The subject site is located on the east side of Parkview Street, south of Portage Avenue. This is in the Bruce Park neighborhood of the St. James Ward. This site is approximately 5,973 square feet in size. It's currently zoned R1M, residential single family medium, and contains a one-story place of worship building. This land is located in the Established Neighborhoods Mature Communities Policy Area under Complete Communities Direction Strategy 2.0 and our Winnipeg 2045. It is also within Area 1 of the Residential Infill Guidelines area. The applicant is proposing to rezone the subject site to the RMFM Residential Multifamily Medium District in order to develop a multifamily residential building on the site. The proposed multifamily building will have 8 dwelling units and be 3 stories tall with a height of approximately 38 feet to the midpoint of the peaked roof. A total of 7 parking stalls are proposed. These parking stalls are shown as being accessed from the adjacent public lanes, which are located to the north and east of the site. A subdivision is required as part of this application because the public service requires the northeast corner of this property be cut to allow a wider intersection of these 2 lanes, which are to the north and east of the site. So this corner cut area is approximately 51 square feet in area. There is an associated variance. This variance is for the minimum lot area. They're proposing the lot area, which is 5,973 square feet instead of 9,000 square feet. Minimum lot area per dwelling, they're proposing 746 square feet instead of the required 800 square feet. South side yard of 6 feet instead of 12 feet. A north side yard of 10.5 feet instead of 12 feet. 7 parking stalls instead of 10 stalls. No guest parking instead of 1 guest parking stall, as well as variances for building foundation, landscaping, and buffering from the rear lane. With respect to the subject subdivision and rezoning application, the Public Service recommends that the site be rezoned to the R2 Residential 2 Family District. reasons for this recommendation is the size of the site. It's a relatively small site and in which an 8 unit building would be beyond what could be supported here. Additionally, the surrounding context, particularly the surrounding context to the south, east, and west, which is characterized by lower density residential uses, as well as policies in Complete Communities Direction Strategy, which do support intensification in established neighborhoods and mature communities, but within the appropriate context, in consideration of compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood. So for these reasons, the Public Service does not support the scale of intensification proposed by the applicant. That is an 8-unit dwelling at this location. The recommended R2 zoning district will allow infill development that is more compatible with the surrounding area in terms of building scale, density, and number of parking stalls. The R2 district permits duplex development. It's a 2-family zone and can accommodate multifamily development through a conditional use application. The Public Service could evaluate such a conditional use application for multifamily to ensure that the proposal meets Complete Communities policies and the residential infill guidelines. And because the associated variances are all associated with a proposal and a site plan and a zoning district that are not supported by the Public Service, the Public Service recommends that the variance application be rejected. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, any questions from?
Probably not. I don't have any right now, but I probably will have some.
So my one question would be R2, what would be the maximum height for an R2 property?
The maximum height under R2 is 35 feet.
What about, is that go for this whole area, 35 feet? Or
It's the same building height that's permitted under the R1 district as well. That's the same building height as what is permitted. I should note that the infill guidelines do speak to building height, and those would require that the maximum height be 28 feet to the midpoint. If it's higher than that, then the building setback needs to.
okay, that was the point I was trying to make.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
No further questions? One more question, Councillor Duncan.
What are the restrictions in the airport vicinity, and does this fall within it?
This is in area 2 of the airport vicinities zone. So there is requirements under the airport vicinities protection legislation for building code related things. So making sure that the walls and windows are soundproof, or not soundproof, maybe,
But height-wise restrictions?
There's no restrictions in the legislation that we review. Certainly nothing that would preclude a building of this height at this location.
Mr. Chair, so the Public Service is not supportive of the 8 units, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Is there a recommendation for a number of units that they could consider?
Well, we're recommending the R2 district. The R2 is 2 families, so there's 2 family, like a duplex, whether it's an up down or side by side, is permitted. Under the R2 zone, multifamily is conditional, so they could apply for a conditional use to do a multifamily development. As far as what we might support under a future conditional use application, it would kind of depend on the site. One item that is a concern with 8 units is that there is room only for 7 parking stalls. That's less than 1 stall per unit at this location. We would want to see that.
Okay, so the pictures piqued my interest with the parking. We have the public service, would they ever be supportive of a parking spot that essentially is a part of the laneway there? But they show spot 7?
Right, the parallel parkings,
Yes.
right?
I have not seen that, but I have not seen as many as my colleagues here, but
Yeah, that in and of itself, it doesn't seem like a concern to us, that configuration.
You don't have on here where the closest transit stop is.
Yeah, that is discussed in the report. The existing, both existing and planned transit service that is in there. I just want to find that begins on page 18.
Oh, page 18.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, here we go.
proximity to Portage Avenue.
144 feet, south of Portage Avenue. Okay, all right. Okay,
Yeah, the parking ratio that's required under the zoning bylaw is I think it's it would be 1.2 here. I mean, we could support like one stall per unit or a ratio of 1 to 1 at this location because it is close to Portage Avenue. But that would be.
now we have changes to our zoning bylaw coming in, when we're going to assume that might happen. So this might completely change also.
Yeah, I don't know what both what will be recommended by the public service that's in development right now, or what would be approved by council, of course. That is, I believe generally that is for 4-story buildings, but also 4 units as of right, within 800 meters of a transit corridor. So this would be certainly within 800 meters. So, I mean, yeah, that has not been approved yet or any kind of recommendation prepared yet.
Okay,
Can I add just one thing? It's not approved yet, but we also haven't decided the size of the lot required in order to have a 4-plex or a 4-story. Is that right?
Yeah, there may be certain standards like that, like minimum lot sizes.
Yeah.
oh, there we
So
go.
we haven't decided that yet, so it doesn't necessarily apply, so.
Right.
Hey,
Okay, and maybe, Mr. Chair, I would like to say, or just make the folks in the gallery aware that I have to stop at 12 o'clock,
yes.
and then start at 1, I guess.
All right, so if we have to, if we're not finished, we'll stop at 12 and then restart at 1. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so first we'll hear from the applicant, John Winthrop, who's speaking in person today.
okay. There we go. Let's see if I can do this today. Engineering. Yeah, we're not going to be able to see that in this architecture. That's true. All right, there we go. Good morning. Thank you for your patience as I key up this presentation. My name is John Winthrop. Before I start, I'll say after hearing the public service comments there, you can change the zoning today and restrict it through a zoning agreement, whatever number of units you want it to be, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8, not more than 8. The path forward to housing is the path I've laid out.
the path to, slowing down and stopping housing is, changing the zoning to R2 and a future conditional use for some unknown unit count. My clients did approach the public service back in February this year and asked them if they'd be supportive of multiple family at this site before they purchased it. They were told the public service was supportive. They purchased the land, and we've been moving forward with housing on this property since then. My name is John Witchup. I'm a professional planner representing the landowner here today. We're in the rezoning public hearing process today. I'm the applicant. We're looking for 8 units for 7 parking stalls. I filed this application back on April 22nd. DAZ and variances, change in zoning with some variances that were outlined by the public service. We're going through the Assiniboine Community Committee with a public hearing. It's been 192 days. We're looking to construct a 3-story, 8 residential units within 800 meters of high frequency transit. Let me give you a context of Parkview, 199 Parkview. It's in the Bruce Park neighborhood in the St. James Ward. It's on the west side of Parkview, 1 door south of Portage Avenue, 1 block north of Assiniboine Avenue, 4 blocks east of Ferry Road. We're in the intensification target area in the combined sewer district, Ferry Road. We're in map 1 of the overlay of the TDA01 mature communities overlay map, area 1. We are in area 2 of the airport vicinity protection area regulations. As stated previously, all we need to do is some sound attenuation. There are no restrictions on height or density or land uses within this zone. This was the provincial regulations adopted in August of 2021. 15-minute walking amenities. There are a number of amenities, including multiple grocery stores within a 15-minute walk, multiple schools, multiple parks, restaurants, a bank, community club. St. James High School is a 6-minute walk to the west. Bruce Park is a 6-minute walk to the west. Tim Hortons, a 5-minute walk to the west. The community club is 6 minutes walk to the south, where there's an off-leash dog park. Family Foods is a 5-minute walk to the west. The Viscount Gort Hotel, to give you an idea, Bipolar Park there is a 12-minute walk to the east. In that catchment area is also the Safeway on Madison Square. So there are schools, grocery stores, amenities, restaurants, pubs, all within 15-minute walking distance. Transit right now, transit in 2024 has the 11, the 21, the 22, and the 26 sliding down Portage Avenue there. 2025, we are going to be 300 meters from the blue line. The blue line that will be running down Portage Avenue with a stop at Ferry Road. We are 300 meters within that stop of the blue line. Multiple cycling routes in that area down Assiniboine Avenue. If you've taken the opportunity to bike down Assiniboine or walk down on a Sunday, it's beautiful and lead you all the way down to Assiniboine Park. The front street is, there are no front driveways. It's concrete sidewalks on both sides. On-street parking is permitted. It's 60 feet wide at P3. Our public lane flanking us along our north property line has garages. It's 20 feet wide. It connects Parkview to River Oak. It has commercial and residential land uses abutting that back lane. Notice the pickup truck parked there in that picture, parallel to the back lane. The rear public lane, concrete, garages, driveways, 20 feet wide. It connects to Assiniboine Avenue to the south of us. Directly to the north is C2. To the east, west, and south is R1. Directly to the west of us is a 2-story single detached dwelling fronting Parkview. To the northwest is a commercial building fronting Portage Avenue. You can purchase your fireworks there. Directly to the north, 4-story building. Directly to the north, across the back lane is a 4-story building, multiple family. Directly to the east, behind all those trees, is a single detached dwelling fronting River Oak. Directly to the south of us is a single detached dwelling with a detached garage and rear yard fronting Parkview. Our lands are currently zoned R1, 50 feet by 100 feet, 5,973 square feet. It's a corner lot. on the corner of Parkview and two back lanes. Our current entitlements allow us to construct a 35 feet in height with 4-foot side yards with one dwelling unit. Currently on the site is a single detached building that's been used as a place of worship for many years. There are no trees in the front yard. In the front yard and the rear yard is entirely paved. Again, no trees in the front yard. There are 2 trees on the boulevard and a partially paved front yard. I believe there was parking at one time there. The entire back rear yard is paved, is being used as a parking area for the place of worship. Those trees are all on the property line on my neighbor's land. And I should state right now, we're not touching any trees on anybody else's property. Any trees on somebody else's property is staying on their property. We're not touching them. Again, the rear yard is entirely paved with concrete or asphalt with vehicle access from the flanking lane. That's why I guess the vehicles park parallel to the back lane. We're looking to construct 8 dwelling units, 2 units per floor with basement suites, 3 stories in height, 33 feet in height. Residential entrance facing Parkview, balconies on the west side only.
And sorry, you said you are approved for, like, right now it's 35, you can build.
35, yeah, so we're going to only 33. That's why we're having basement suites, is we're lowering it down by 2 feet to accommodate it. At 3 stories, I believe the Housing Accelerator Fund is approving 4 stories within 800 meters of rapid transit. I'll wait if that happens, but that's what the council was talking about. We're looking to construct 7 vehicle parking in the rear yard, 6 bicycle parking stalls, a 17-foot front yard, 22 front yard to the building face, the 17 feet is to the balconies, 36-foot rear yard, 6-foot side yard against our neighbor. Currently our entitlements right now are 4 feet. We're going to push it to 6 feet, a 10.5-foot north side yard against the public lane.
Can you just hold on? Or I guess we can come back to that. Keep
Yeah,
going.
sure. We're looking to rezone the RFM medium, and the subdivision is for a lane widening. It's a corner cut for garbage trucks that usually navigate. This is standard across the city of Winnipeg. Whenever these things come up now, is usually the corner is given to the city of Winnipeg to widen the lane because vehicles like garbage trucks will cross over that corner anyways. I believe we'll probably end up paving that corner cut to make that happen. We need variances for lot area. A lot area per dwelling unit of 746 square feet instead of 800 square feet. A south side yard of 6 feet instead of 12. A north side yard of 10.5 instead of 12. The insufficient building landscaping has to do with at the rear of the property. If we want parking to come off the back of the lane, we're not able to put the landscaping and the fencing along that back lane. So that is an automatic variance that everybody has to get. Again, the insufficient buffering at the rear lot lane related to parking stalls. The front yard is being measured for us. We're looking at going to the building face is actually farther away than the 10.5 feet, which is to the balconies. If we were to strip off the balconies, then our front yard would be 17 feet. And we would meet the front yard. But we like public amenity spaces and balconies. What about the front yard? There's pavement there. We would remove it and restore the vegetation. As you can see, the building looks more institutional than residential right now. We would plant the front yard with trees and shrubs. Again, the 17-foot front yard is to the balconies. It's 22 feet to the building face. The front yard alignment came in at 19 feet. So the building face actually exceeds the front yard. It's just our balconies. What will face the adjacent properties itself from the subject lands? We'll have fencing along the subject lands, 6.5 feet. It will be a kitchen, a bedroom, and approximately 4 windows and a 6-foot side yard. The other dwelling units' windows are below the fence line. So we're looking at 4 windows facing south. 2 of the windows are for kitchens and 2 windows are for bedrooms.
Another motion for another 2 minutes.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Same facing to the north towards the 4-story apartment building would be 4 windows with a 10-foot side yard though. We're looking at 750 square foot 2-bedroom dwelling units. I'll mention right now.
All of them are 750?
Yeah, all 750, and then actually because we're able to do a visitable housing, we'd be able to have the ground floor units as being almost fully accessible. We're looking to have a couple accessible dwelling units in there. What about parking? Well, almost every major city has eliminated their parking requirements except for Winnipeg. Winnipeg has the highest parking requirements in a major city in Canada. The city of Vaughan is our comparable in terms of requiring the parking that we require here in Winnipeg. Toronto, Edmonton, Vancouver, Saskatoon, Regina have eliminated them all. In the States,
Regina.
yeah. Minneapolis is eliminated. That would be our neighbor to the south. So you can see the number of cities that are eliminating parking requirements. What about parking? Well, there are alternative modes of transportation. Within the 199 Parkview, it's considered a walk score of 90, a walker's paradise, 61 for good transit, 87 for very bikeable. A lot of amenities within 15 minutes. I lived out in that area. I know all the many amenities for employment, shopping, groceries, food. We're within couple hundred meters of the new rapid transit station, apparently for the Blue Line on Ferry Road across from St. James High School. We're looking for a rezoning to multiple family today and for our variances. A change to R2 zoning would mean I'd have to wait almost a full year to come forward with a conditional use. Because what will happen is a change in R2 zoning means that process, the city will make me, and I've had to do this, go through that entire rezoning process and have that completed before I could file my conditional use. Changing the zoning would mean a zoning agreement, all those entitlements, council's approval. Then I would have to come back with a conditional use.
2 more minutes.
I'd like to have something approved today, so I can start construction tomorrow. To give you the context, we're in October 31st. And over the last 12 months, I've been the proponent for 4,713 dwelling units to come forward to this municipality. I'd love to have them all under construction next year. This is one of the few that might actually happen because the other ones are still being processed. It takes time to construct these things. If we can get this approved today, the owner can start constructing this after, getting a building permit in 6 months, starting construction next year, and somebody living in this place in 2026. Otherwise, these things are getting pushed down the road till, I'll have a ribbon cutting ceremony in 2027, not 2026. So I'm looking to have something approved here today. I like to move forward with construction. I like to see housing. I like to see people living in housing in 2026.
Any questions?
Okay, so you want RMFM is what you want for zoning, and the department is recommending
R2, which requires a future conditional use if I want more than 2 dwelling units.
Why are they recommending R2 instead of RMFM?
The R2 certainly would mean that I'd have to wait until the whole zoning process will be completed sometime next spring and then file a conditional use. And the conditional use right now is taking over 200 days to be processed at the city of Winnipeg. So that takes us down the road for almost a full year. So now we're not starting construction until 2026 maybe for the spring, and somebody moving in 2027.
And so currently right now, what's the height for R2 again? Sorry.
35 feet.
So same as what you have now.
I'm proposing 33.
Right, but you're legally entitled.
Right now, R1, R2 allows 35 feet.
Right. And it's R1, okay.
Can I just interject
Yeah.
for just 1 second? The
Yeah.
picture I'm looking at here says 38 feet to midpoint of roof, not 33.
Yeah, we'll lower it to 33. We took it down to 33. We'll change the roof design to make it 33. We're not looking for variances. We're looking to lower it down.
Okay,
Right.
change it a wee bit.
Okay,
And you can restrict it if you want the height of the building under a zoning agreement.
okay.
We're trying to fit this under 4 stories because I heard what was the framework approved last fall, and I'm trying to follow that framework.
Okay, let's go to that slide where we talked about distances for the neighbors. Okay, that's it. Okay, so south yard,
6 feet,
okay, which one? South is?
1C.
Oh, yeah, north, 1C. Okay, got it.
So, and I'm gonna have a 5-foot walkway because the requirement now is to have a 4.9 feet wide walkway in the zoning bylaw. And if I don't have that, then it's a variance now. So I have a whole bunch of new variances I'm dealing with because everybody usually goes for a 4-foot side yard. So we made ours 5 feet to avoid that variance, and we'll will be 6 feet away. I could move the building closer to the north property line a couple more feet and give them a couple more feet if you want to make it 6 to 8 feet.
Distance from the other.
Yeah, I could shift the building over towards the north property line if the concern is too close to the neighbor to the south.
Right. But we do many for 4 feet. There's many 4-foot distances, right?
Yeah, the requirement used to be 3, then it became 4. We're doing now 5, and we're actually doing 6. So we're increasing it as much as we can to move things away from if the neighbor has a concern.
Okay, and then your frontage, you've got your balconies. Balconies are good for articulation. They're just good, period.
Eyes on the street.
Yeah.
Instead of the balcony, I like eyes on the street. The Jane Jacobs idea of security is amenity, people in their front yards enjoying their spaces facing west towards the setting sun in the evening and having eyes out on the street. A lot more people are doing, front yard amenities instead of their backyard, which is great because it brings people to the front yard.
Okay. And let's talk about the accessible. What were you talking about that?
If you look at the front of the building, we'd look at trying to put in and I've already talked to the developer about this, we could put in a wheelchair ramp instead of stairs to make the ground units accessible.
Why do you want to do that?
Because I think there's a market there for a growing market. It's not a huge market, but increasingly I'd say in the last 6 months, more of a demand where people seeking accessible units, elderly people, aging baby boomers, and people who are looking for accessible suites. I'm actually promoting a lot more projects that are going to be coming over the next few months if I get into public hearings of accessible suites. Talking to architects, it's usually having a bathroom slightly bigger for a wheelchair and lowering the sink down in the counter, but also eliminating kind of that staircase in the front yard. And we can do that with a wheelchair ramp. There's enough space there to do that.
Okay. Anyone else have questions or?
Hey, Councillor Dunn.
Okay.
I was just wondering if you can flip back to the one that depicts the lanes and the position of the building. Yeah, no, sorry. There you go.
Yeah.
Why would this not be as close to the east-west lane as possible?
Yeah, we centered the project like that. Yeah, we can shift it over, certainly move it towards the north public lane to provide more space to the neighbor to the south if that's a concern.
I was just thinking more so like, your point of there's a 4-story building on Forge Avenue. Just trying to put it more so with that grouping there, but I guess, is it more unattractive to be sitting right on the lane? Is that?
No, we could put it closer to the lane. I wouldn't want it right on the lane because I have people with bedroom windows, etc., on the lane. There would be vehicles going up and down the lane. Well, I've done projects where we've moved it as close as 2 feet to the lane. It's not a perfect rectangle, so that front corner property line might need a different variance. And if we move it over, I'd seek that variance if the committee is acceptable to the project and us reducing the north lane. I'd move the building over towards the north public lane. I'd want at least 2 feet just for safety reasons. If there's garbage trucks and snow equipment, but I don't believe that's a high speed lane. I've been down it lots of time. It's not at a corner. I don't think it's not long enough to be at a high speed to be concerned about the dwelling too close to the lane.
Is your intention as it stands right now to have a fence along that lane?
We're showing that fence, but we would hope to do a plan approval process. Again, I'm not a fan of fencing along lanes. I find they just get damaged. I think at most is maybe I'd want maybe a couple concrete posts. I haven't talked to the developer about this. I've walked down lots of back lanes. I grew up out St. James, used to walk down back lanes to get to school all the time. I'd put like metal posts or concrete posts maybe at the corner of the building and maybe a more of a transparent fence along the like Rhode Island along the lane. But usually the fencing along lanes, people swing into them and smash them. I don't think we need to buffer against the residential building to the north. We're looking to buffer against the project to the house to the south. But that would be a plan approval item I'd like to bring back to the committee in the future before we get a building permit, items like that.
So what are we going to talk about snow storage? Where are we going to shovel the snow to park these cars?
I've got a large front yard. I can put snow there. I've got where the bicycle parking wouldn't be used during the winter time as much. I can put park between the building and the parking area, plus I have a walkway there. I've got storage on site for snow.
So I find developers come and, you know, they ask for parking. They're not gonna build something and not be able to rent it unless they can accommodate parking. You know what I'm saying? Like.
Market demand, that's why cities are eliminating parking, because if you're building a building, and I'm gonna be bringing forward a couple of projects that are, we're gonna promote this. Haven't followed them yet, but I have next to no parking. I'll talk about 25.5 Pembina Highway, we did 0.3 parking stalls per unit there. I've talked to the developer, you couldn't park near there if you had a car. The only people moving into that building are people who don't own cars. I live in Osborne Village. In my building, there's only one parking stall per unit. If you have two cars, you're not living in that building. And so you're driven by the market. If you're constructing something and willing to, carry that product, and if you have no parking and you want an empty unit, then the risk is entirely yours.
Right. Like I'd be inclined to have one less parking, give them space for snow storage.
I'd like to have one less parking. I like to have no parking. That's where I'd like the market to dictate what it needs for parking. And in Winnipeg, a lot of people will come out and say, well, people will park on the street. Well, first we have snow bylaws. You can't park year round. And in January, February, when it goes down to -40, you can't plug your car in. You're not starting it up. So you can't leave your car on a street like throughout the winter time in Winnipeg. We're one of the few cities in North America where that is just not feasible, other than like some cities up in Alaska and the Northwest Territories. You can't leave your car out on a public street throughout the year and expect that as parking.
So, we'll hear from other people. This whole, I represent Waverly West, evil urban sprawl, all of that. But if we want to do, if we don't want to do spread out, if we want to grow up, this is what you're presenting is to do gentle infill.
All the projects I've been doing have been infill this year. I do work for greenfield developers. I'm actually okay with building housing. I do stuff out in the RMs. I'm doing stuff out in St. Andrews, West St. Paul, RM and McDonald. We need housing. We need it everywhere. I prefer to see it in infill on existing services. And adding gentle infill is the pathway forward to add some housing, but you still need greenfield sites. There's just such a demand for housing. A unit product like this is for people who live in the area, older people. We'd like to have some accessible units who want to be nearby to the grocery stores and the bank, or who might have a older kid or a kid going to St. James High School and the school's up the street and who can't afford housing. It's amazing the number of families who have jobs and work hard in Winnipeg and they can't afford a house anymore. The prices are just outside their reach, so they're moving into 4-plexes, 6-plexes, 8-plexes. And just to touch on building costs, the magic number is 5 or more. Developers mostly want 6, just because you can get a better mortgage rate through CMHC. But whether it's 6 units or 5, the 6 actually makes it more affordable because the price of construction between 5 and 6 is pretty much identical.
Okay, so tell me again why it takes so long to go to R2 versus today RMF.
R2 means I have to complete the zoning process. I just went through this with the city where they'll make me complete.
Why don't you have to complete the zoning process for RMFN?
Well, I'll have to complete it, but then it's permitted. Multiple families permitted in the RFM zones. It's conditional in the R2.
Got it.
I just had this happen in the last few months where I completed this. I had to complete the entire zoning, have everything on title that zoning's approved, and then they'll accept the conditional use or new variances. So then it's a linear process. So it'll take, hopefully this goes to council at the end of November. I still have a bunch of agreements that have to be signed, and then it has to be registered at land titles. And then, like I said, this year is taking over 200 days to get conditional uses and variances approved. Process at the planning department. So I already know I'm now looking at maybe a year from now, getting a conditional use approved for more than 2 units. That's another year of the building sitting as is with nobody living in it. Those are internal rules that the city has created that says, this is why I'm starting to get frustrated about trying to get housing going.
Councillor Duncan.
Currently, as you have proposed here, what is the lot coverage for the actual structure?
Good question. I know we don't need a variance, and I believe that nobody has pointed that out. I'll take a look quickly, but I don't believe we're covering more than 30%, but I don't have that number
Okay, fair.
in front of me. I'll try to get that up before.
Okay, and then most importantly, and I'm sure we'll hear from some of these folks, what's the feedback that you received from the community?
I only talked to a couple of people when I was posting the site. My clients talked to a few people because they know people in the area. So they asked to do that and I let them do it. I had a couple of people ask me what was going on when I was posting up the posters. They were walking by. I'm assuming they lived in the area. I don't usually ask, where do you live? I usually tell them what I'm doing and when the public hearing is.
I guess we'll be more to the point. What was the negative feedback that you got?
I didn't hear any, I understand there's people here today, but nobody called me or approached me, or I'm not sure if they contacted the planner. I know we have letters of support for people who registered and support. So the people who I talked to were positive, but that's only my experience. Somebody else might have had a different experience.
I asked that question because I'm more so looking for how you potentially made changes to your original plan as what we're seeing today.
Yeah, some of the changes, I'm always concerned about the neighbors and the impact of the neighbor next door. That's why I went out and looked at the site more than a few times. I grew up out in the area and kind of know the building and noticed the trees and the vegetation and believe that's enough to screen on their property to whatever we're doing here. We'd be happy to enhance our screening if need be. Like the people across the back lane have a lot of landscaping in their backyard, pine trees, coniferous trees, etc. So, and then the house to the south of us has a number of trees as well.
Any other questions?
Nope, not now for me.
I just want to make a point. I will check with the public service, but generally this is in an area there's considered a mature area and infill guidelines apply, and generally 35 feet is not something that goes in infill. It's 28. What the new zoning rules will imply, I'm not sure yet. So I don't know if the elevation does make a difference. You're bringing it down to 33, which would work on a typical R2, but not necessarily infill guidelines. Just thought I'd throw.
Yeah, my understanding that PDO came in after I filed my application. It was in July, I believe, or the end of June. And I believe it regulates single family, 2-family, and I think triplexes, but I'll have to take a look. I only know single family because I just picked up a whole bunch of projects of people renovating their houses that now need plan approval and have to lower their houses.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you very much. Seeing the time, we're gonna have to take a break pretty soon.
Next person gets 10 minutes, right?
Yep.
Okay, one more person.
Next registered to speak is Marco Gospic, to be heard in support of the application. Is Marco here? No? Okay, we'll move along to Ken O'Connor, who's joining us via Zoom. Ken, we're just asking you to start your video and unmute yourself, and then you have up to 10 minutes for your presentation.
Hello?
Hi, you have
Hello?
Hello.
Ken, you're with the committee. You have up to 10 minutes for your presentation.
Oh, thank you. My name's Ken O'Connor. I currently live at 380 Rutland Avenue, which is in between Ness and Silver. We are totally in support of this project. We've noticed in our area alone a number of derelict buildings that have just sat and are eyesore. One of the properties has had at least 2 fires. The project we looked at, and I'm a pretty good person when it comes to doing my homework. I've studied this builder. He does good work. We actually have friends that live in St. Vital in a property that they built. The finishings are outstanding. The property, the housing, everything is just fantastic. The people down our street, there's 2 infills that are under construction, and the house next door, the foundation is just starting on it for another infill. And these properties are enhancing our property values. and they're making the whole city a better place to live because of the fact that we are in such short supply of good housing and fairly affordable housing. The people that are moving into these are a lot of them immigrants, which helps them out, and we need those people in our city to come and help us and do things. I really support it, and I wish you would approve it, and that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you very much. Any, no questions? Thank you very much.
No.
For your patience.
Okay, thank you very much.
At this,
Did the committee want to proceed or would you like to
We could
recess?
do one more. Let's do one more.
Okay,
okay,
so just confirming that there's no one else in the gallery registered in support of the application who wishes to speak? Okay, so we'll move on to Kelly Ryback, who's speaking in opposition to the application. Kelly's joining us in person. You have up to 10 minutes for your presentation.
Thank you. Just connecting USB. This one is still here. Just where, there we go. The share it is not. The share it on Zoom is the Zoom over?
You just click into the Zoom application,
Okay, then I just exit. Okay, we're good.
hit the green button.
All right, thank you very much for the opportunity for this. I know there will be more discussion and rebuttal, but just, what question comes to mind is how much is the rent for each unit that was never declared? That changes the height that's from 33 feet to 38. Just to clarify, when it was listed at 38, that was only to part of the roof, that the total height is likely 42. So like know what the actual peak is if it goes down to 33. But my presentation and hang on. This way. Okay, this is the property and this is showing the neighboring house at 195 Parkview Street. But to go on, if you were to put in what this building would look like, there's a comparison. I just want to point the applicant stated the building on Portage is that's 4 stories. When I looked at it, I thought it was 3, so just give you an idea. But this will show what it would be compared to the neighboring house and many houses in the neighborhood. This is out of character of the neighborhood and the amount of size onto it. We'll get into specifics on this point. They're asking to be the balcony 17 feet from the sidewalk. The neighboring home, their living room is in the northwest corner of the house. It's 25 feet from the sidewalk. And with this building, if it's only 6 feet from the property line, that somebody could just peer over the balcony and look right into the neighbor's living room. That is not appropriate. Secondly, because it extends so far beyond the neighbor's home, that now blocks the neighbor's home from any visibility from the north, creating a safety hazard. Also, with the height of that building, you're looking at greater water and snow accumulation on that south side. And now that they're saying there'd be a pathway there'd be no absorption, that any rainwater, any melting snow will flow towards the property right at the line. And that would be creating problems for the foundation and possible seepage into the property, causing many issues. Then you're looking at the risk of voyeurism and the loss of privacy, obstructing view. All right. If we look at the site map, again, I've already said in where I've put in 0.1, circled in red. That's already been addressed so far as the proximity to the sidewalk and the issues with the neighboring property. With the problem with the 6 foot, now with the hard surface sidewalk, again, there's no absorption. That's needing more space for snow storage. When we look at the 6 units of parking, number 3, that again, that's a big snow removal requirement. The loss of snow storage for the back lane plowing on that end is now eliminated. So either that windrow is going to be just pushed into the back lane or moved over to the house on River Oaks. But you've lost an entire section of snow storage for snow plowing the back lane. Back lane snow clearing is extremely problematic, and this is only adding to that. The same with losing snow storage for the garbage bin enclosures on that northeast corner. The parking stall number 7, that's 0.5, and there's no buffer for the parking. That's another snow clearing problem for the city crew or contractor. And I fear for the owner of that vehicle when it comes to snow clearing. And again, snow storage is an issue. The building has front and back entrances, so you have a full hallway through that. That's, loss of living space. But to make this wheelchair accessible, saying they're willing to do that, that is a 4-foot lift. That requires a 40-foot ramp. You have to drop 1 inch for every 1 foot in height. So you're going to lose at least half of the bicycle parking. So that's gone. If you're going to do it in front, now you got to deal with a 40-foot ramp, either one stretch or 20 foot in 2 sections for the roundabout. That's going to be very close to the sidewalk. That's just not applicable to this. The size of the lot, the reduction from the requirement is severe. It's 1/3. We have seen variances allowed, but not to that extent. And for a unit this large, I fully support the public service recommendation of a duplex, preferably if it's an upper and lower with a raised basement. There was a lot of confusion amongst residents. They thought it was only 6 unit, not knowing that it'd be in a basement, but basement with only 4 feet above grade with probably inadequate windows, at least as a renter and as far as egress.
Mr. Chair, I don't think that that's a fair statement. There's building code.
Yeah,
But I'm just saying it's not
absolutely correct. It will be adequate, otherwise they would never approve it. So making those comments are incorrect.
So when you look at also a building of only 6 feet from property line and there's snow problems and et cetera, I also have a concern just on fire protection safety, being able to have things accessible. But the street view with only 7.
I'd like to object to that again. That's a invalid statement. There's codes that have to be met for all of these builds for fire safety in multifamily especially.
Thank you. And I would expect you to retract that statement. Thank you.
Fine. I just find it difficult that fire doesn't sign off. But anyways, on the street, there is already a problem with street parking. So when you ask visitors, or if there are going to be more than 7 vehicles by the owners of the residence, it's going to add to the street congestion. Midday, the street is lined. The parking available by the commercial units is lined with parking, as very fortuitous as to when the developer took those pictures, but that is not indicative of reality. At most down this property is duplexes. The signage that was posted on the back lane was posted face up on a bench, and days later that bench was moved to against the building. So in essence, there was no posting to alert back lane users, especially those that lived on River Oaks. A petition, myself and 2 other people went through the neighborhood. We have 75 signatures, almost all from Parkview and from River Oaks that shares the back lane. 71% of River Oaks residents on the west side of River Oaks who share that back lane signed the petition. The 51% of all Parkview homes are represented on the petition. And the only reason it wasn't larger is that people weren't home or partners weren't home. I only had 4 people who said they supported the plan as it is. Other people said they were in favor from infill, but once they learned it was 8 units, they were against it and they signed the petition. That's a very large number of residents in this mature neighborhood under infill guidelines, if it is, that do not support an 8-unit complex. Concern for the neighbor with the extension and with the impact of loss of privacy, the impact of flooding is of major concern, street parking, etc. Any questions?
So, any questions, councillors? No questions?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very
I
much for
just ask you to support the public service recommendation. It's not the fault of the neighbors that it's taken so long to this point. It could have gone faster had the applicant applied for R2 at the very beginning. But the neighborhood to only have 2 weeks to prepare for this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this time, seeing the time, I think we will break for lunch and resume at 1 o'clock. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carried.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Assiniboine Community Committee, the hearings portion. We're resuming from where we left off at 12 noon.
So next to speak is Benjamin Figler, who is here in opposition to the application. Just have a seat.
Hello. So I'm Ben Figler and I'm at 195 Parkview with my wife. 3 years ago, well, I'll start further back. My wife and I are both from the country. She's from Selkirk area. I'm from Winnipeg Beach. We moved to the city. We've been in the city for probably past 10 years, I'd say. And we were in West End, then Wolseley. Now we've moved over to St. James. We finally chose our first home in St. James to build a family, single family neighborhood. So that's what we went with. And we found our little house with a large yard, which is great. We're from the country. And next to it was just a little church and a parking lot. And they were kind enough to let us park if we needed to in the winter, moving off the street for snow bans, all of that. So a major concern is right there, the parking. So I read through everything that was available to me on Friday when it was published. It took about an hour and I went through it, and I think the urban planning and development team is correct in the recommendation. It falls short or it makes exceptions that are just too much. As far as the neighborhood, it's a bit too tall, I'd say. It's going to cause congestion. This is a busy intersection for the back lane. I know, I'm out in it with my 1-year-old daughter pretty much every day because we prefer to go down the back lanes. It's a little easier with the dog. It's a little easier with her. She's not running into people's lawns. She's just kind of staying in the back lane. And a lot of families do that. A lot of dog walkers down there. And then we have the businesses that are right on Portage. So the businesses on Portage have some parking right behind in their lots. And then the rest of the parking is going to be on Parkview or on River Oaks. River Oaks doesn't have a sidewalk on either side. So that traffic, there's people on the roads all the time. This is 7 units, 7 cars, bit more vehicles, I suppose, but bit more people. Now, our developer, John, talked about how there's all these amenities within walking distance, but this is going to be 30 more people, which is good for the community, but also is at a pedestrian safe spot for the condominium? I wouldn't say so. Another concern is the drainage of the water. That back lane doesn't have sewer grate right there. So that spot, that corner, does fill up with water and doesn't go away very quickly. Another concern being the drainage to my property, the 120-year-old foundation, 6 feet from it. So this is a disturbance for sure. Another one, the windows facing the south side will be looking right into our private oasis that we chose perfectly 3 years ago. We'll be looking right into our backyard, right? So this is a big turnoff for us, right? Also, on a personal note, my wife is a psychiatric nurse out in Selkirk, and she often has to sleep during the day. We have accepted that there is going to be construction and that our heads are pretty much on that south wall. So we've accepted there's going to be construction on this. We do need people in the neighborhood. We need more housing. I understand this. I get that there's the federal bill, and for January, there's another hearing, and these things need to happen for the city to grow. I just think that this size of project, as laid out by the urban planning and development team, doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. It falls short and makes exceptions and it doesn't work for that spot. Something different? Absolutely. A duplex, if they can fit side by side duplexes for 4, I think that's more manageable for the area. I think it fits well with the area. And apartment blocks is the 2 duplexes or 4 units promotes more of the single family home more than this 8 suites. You know, it stays with the neighborhood. I think it's a better use of the property. You could get 2 or 4 units and land in the back, land in the front, and parking available. I think that's makes more sense. So R2, I think, is the correct recommendation. I just wanted to see my piece. You know, it's going to affect us a lot, regardless of what ends up happening with the property. We think, and I mean, there were the petitions put through. The neighborhood, I think, agrees that the R2 zoning would be correct. I also understand, talking with John, that he was able to get the conditional use through the R2, then the scale of the project would not necessarily change. So we would just be delaying it by a year and wasting taxpayers' money. So the decision really comes down to what you see from the urban planning and development team, what their recommendation is, and what you hear from the public. Both of which land within R2 zoning, duplex, if you can fit 2 duplexes, 4plex. That works. Now, January, you'll have the 4plex will potentially coming through. That's going to have different zoning. So, but you won't be able to have these public hearings, right? That's the understanding. So the 4plex, but it's only 4. Now that's a big difference from the 8 just there. So it could be better. I think it would be better, actually, because it's less traffic in the back lane. But also I know that's going to happen. It's a whole other thing. It's not even necessary to speak about in this situation, really. That January 1. Sorry, I'm anxious. My apologies. I'm anxious because I don't do a lot of speaking like this. Anyway, I think bottom line, the recommendation from the committee is correct, and it should stay with that. And that would be the correct choice. Thank you for hearing me out.
Councilor Luce.
Tell me what goes on at the church now. Is it?
Right now it is a pet rescue.
Oh, it's a pet rescue.
Yes. So it's actually Tales of Freedom. Tales of Freedom Pet Rescue. They're building. They had a fire on their Wall Street building, and so now they are located there, leasing for 11 months. In that building until I guess we find out about the development.
Right. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So they've leased it. So was it a church when you were there in the last 3 years?
Yeah, it was a church and had a good relationship with the renter or leaser there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, thanks for your input.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Oh, 1 second. Tell me how you feel about having a 33-foot building right next to you, 6 feet away from your property line.
That's also why I think the duplexes would be a better idea. That is a lot. It's a very big building. We've got a 25-foot building, 2-story building on the just south of us, and that looks tall out my windows. But this building right now, this plan will stick out past my living room window, the balconies, and my one window is already looking out into a wall, so that is fine. But also this building is, I think, too big for the property. We're not fans. I've seen a lot of houses in Wolseley and in the West End, houses next to apartment blocks, and they don't look good after a few years. And I know that's,
So you're not opposed to a development there?
I'm not opposed to a development.
For more intensification, just not too much.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to something happening with that property.
Yeah.
I think 8 units is too much. And that scale is too much. It doesn't fit the guidelines. I don't think it'll work. And I think it could.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And next to speak in opposition is Jennifer Fati, who's joining us via Zoom. Hi, Jennifer. You have up
Hi,
to
can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Foti, and I live on Parkview Street, actually. And I'm here to share my opinions on why I oppose this rezoning and development at 199 Parkview Street. I've lived here since 2009, and I've seen and felt the dynamics of the neighborhood change over the years. Some changes are good, others have created challenges. But based on my experience as a longtime resident of Parkview Street, I believe that this proposed rezoning and development of 199 Parkview is not a good fit for the area. And I'll briefly outline the reasons why I oppose it. Number one, the lot is just way too small for for the proposed building. You have less than 6,000 square feet, and it's just not a good fit. It's way too big for the space. Another concern I have is snow and water issues. I'm concerned about how that snow is going to get cleared around the proposed development and where they're going to put it. The back lane that runs behind our houses and where it ends at the back lane for the businesses on Portage becomes difficult to negotiate on foot and by car during the winter months, and especially when the snow melts in the spring and that water begins to pool back there. And like my neighbor said, I don't know what it is, but I don't think there's drainage back there because it pools and it becomes an ice skating rink back there. There's limited space there and no room to put that snow in the back lane. This development will exacerbate a pre-existing problem when the snow melts in the spring, in my opinion. The previous owners, which are the church, I recall they had to put the snow in their parking lot because there wasn't anywhere else to put it. And that forced some of the parishioners, when they would arrive for their services, out onto Parkview to have parking, which leads to my next objection, which is the parking problem. I understand the bylaw requires 10 parking spots, but they're looking for an exception for less. I can't remember, I think they said 6 or 7 spots. Since it's an 8-unit apartment, typically, in my opinion, you have 2 vehicles per residence. And if that bears true, then where are the other vehicles going to go? Especially during the winter when the parking bans due to snow clearing go into effect. And Mr. Winthrop suggested something that I felt was misleading, was that in Winnipeg, it's too cold and people aren't parking out on the streets. They're nowhere to plug in. Like I said, I've been here since 2009. Everyone parks out on the street during the winter time here, especially at night. And as soon as the plows come, everyone leaves. I don't know where they're going. And then as soon as the plows pass on, they're back. And it's heavily congested here. So much so I'm sat in my living room looking at the street right now. And I've watched Amazon trucks and delivery trucks come, and they have to park in the street with their flashers going because they can't find parking already in order to deliver their packages to the houses here. So we're already struggling to find parking. Most of us that live here have more than one vehicle, and we already compete to find the parking because people who park on our street and work at the businesses on Portage Avenue take up space. And the people at Oswald Apartments, which is that apartment that you saw in the slide deck that was shown to you, they park out here on Parkview Street. I heard the proposition that reducing parking spots for this proposed development will be okay because more people take the bus these days or are traveling on foot because it's walkable. But I can tell you that this idea doesn't match the reality on the ground for us. At this very moment, we already have the residents of Oswald Apartments and where they park to serve as a real example, proving this proposition just isn't the case for us. Moreover, the former owners of 199 Parkview Street, the aforementioned church, had about 10 to 15 families that would attend the services there. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, when the church was in session, parking was an issue for them as well. And as negotiating getting out of the parking lot and onto the back lane was really difficult because it's so small back there. Also, negotiating the back lanes for us was difficult due to increased traffic when they were coming and going. So we know what we're in for with this proposed development because we've been through this already. It was fine when it was a church because they weren't there often. But with the development, it's going to be a full-time issue. This leads me to my final point. Traffic along the back lanes is a problem. Parkview's residential back lane ends at the back lane of Oswald Apartments and Anderson Orthopedic Clinic, making a T formation. At this T-shaped juncture, you also have the parking lot of 199 Parkview Street. So you have the residents of Parkview Street traveling down their back lane towards Portage. You have the people entering and exiting the parking lot of 199 Parkview Street. You have the residents of Oswald Apartments that are driving back and forth and accessing their tiny little garages back there, and patients trying to access the back entrance of the medical clinic, and we all converge at this one juncture. Just so you know, Mr. Wintrip failed to mention that the patient back entrance for orthopedic and for Anderson Orthopedic is right there where the residential back lane meets the one that's behind the businesses. That's where the patient entrance is. It's right there. So you have to be very mindful. Parkview's residential back lane ends at that at Oswald Apartments, Anderson, as I mentioned. But I'd like to point out that Anderson Orthopedics is a clinic that serves patients that require prosthetics and orthotics. Patients with missing limbs come there to get fitted for artificial limbs, and they also receive follow-up care at this clinic. This presents a unique situation that you won't find anywhere else in Bruce Park. Often I see patients are getting dropped off and picked up, or what I see is patients, usually elderly, with missing limbs waiting outside in the back lane for their ride. Or you will see transport vehicles coming in that are fitted with wheelchair lifts to transport patients in wheelchairs, as well as the delivery trucks. So you have to wait for them to clear in the area in order to proceed. I mentioned this is a unique situation to make you aware of what's going on here. Adding this development and increasing the amount of traffic here isn't safe, in my opinion. This special population of vulnerable patients needs to be considered here, and increasing the traffic due to this proposed development is going to add pressure to this unique traffic situation and is dangerous to the vulnerable population of patients, in my opinion. In summary, I oppose the proposed development at 199 Parkview Street because the lot is too small for what they want to build there. There isn't enough room for snow storage during the winter months and will lead to water pooling due to inadequate drainage. There's lack of parking and add pressure to a unique traffic situation that needs to accommodate special patients accessing the orthopedic clinic in the back lane. I will close by saying that I have heard the Public Services recommendation is not to approve this application. I agree that this application should not be approved. That said, I understand they have recommended a duplex, and I support a 2-story duplex. Thank you for your time and allowing me to share my opinions on this matter.
Thank you very much. Any questions, councillors? No questions. Thank you. You've pointed out a couple of good items. The fact that there's a medical profession on Portage and the parking is on the back, which I knew, but not everyone else did. I thought that's good that you brought that up, and the parking for the apartment block. Thank you very much.
So there is no one else registered to speak in opposition to the application. Is there anyone in the gallery wishing to speak in opposition? Okay, there's no one registered with
Not registered.
Okay, do you wish to speak to the committee?
Yes.
Okay, you'll need to fill out a registration form.
Sorry.
30-something.
Can I do that afterwards? Can I speak before I fill this out? So I agree with especially that last lady.
Could you identify yourself first?
My name is Samuel Findley. I live at 180 River Oaks Drive. So my back lane is the back lane we're talking about. Snow removal is a problem. Walking dogs is a problem. Car traffic is a problem. And we had a lady here before, Yoko, from across, we saw a picture of her house right across from the site. And she has great concerns. Also with parking. She has concerns with parking on her property because when Parkview gets full, they go back, not the back lane we're talking about, but the back lane to the west, and they park in her property. So it's adding congestion. I agree with the R2. I wouldn't care whether it's a side by each duplex or a one on top. I think what I would actually prefer myself personally is 2 single family dwellings. And we have a precedent for that down the street. On the west side, there is 2, and I paced it out. It's the same pace, 16 steps for me. Actually, Parkview is 199 is a little bit wider. So it would be easy to put two in. And that would be single families that would fit our community. Yeah, I've been in the community 36 years. I've been on River Oaks for 28, and it's a wonderful community. Parks everywhere, and as was pointed out, lots of amenities. So it's a great place to live, and we want to keep it, as Ben said, we want to keep it safe. And the less people, the safer it is. Anyways, I think that's probably all I need to say about that. Pardon? Well, that's my opinion.
That's good.
Any questions from the councilors? No questions. Thank you very much for your presentation.
I'll get this to you.
There's no one registered with respect to the application, so just confirming that there's no one else in the gallery registered for information looking to speak. Okay, if there are questions for the public service.
Oh, that's it? There's no, okay. Okay, questions for the public service. So what's the process here? We do questions for the public service, then the people can come back again?
Only the applicant can speak in rebuttal.
Only the applicant can speak in rebuttal. Okay. So what is on the infill guidelines? What's the height recommended? 28?
I'm just double checking that it's maximum height for low-rise apartment buildings is 35 feet, but the setback for anything that's higher than 28 feet needs to move further over. Like if you're adjacent, like their south side yard would need to move over for all portions of the building that are higher than 28 feet. But 35 is the maximum here.
Okay, so you give me your take on the RMFM to the R2. Like,
well, there's less an R2 zoning district. It does require conditional use if you want to do multifamily, if you want to do more than a duplex. There's less variances that would be required because the lot size is big enough for the RMFM zoning district that they're proposing. They need a maximum lot size of 9,000 square feet. They're under that, so that's a variance that is needed. So an R2 is just an R2 plus a conditional use that they might apply for. That is really a better suited district for smaller sites like this. So that's kind of the.
it does sound like he can do something on an RMFM and not have the delay that's required with an R2.
Yeah, if there's, I mean, if this is approved, then it gets registered at land titles, and then it can go ahead. If there were conditions,
Why are we trying to get more housing? Wouldn't it be better to instead of waiting for an R2 to do an RMFM?
Yeah, we are, but we also have complete communities direction strategy, which requires us to look at things in terms of compatibility with the neighborhood. So that's kind of the thinking with this proposal, at the density, at the availability of parking that's provided, and the building height that's shown is that it's not compatible with the area. So we could through the R2 zoning district, that's 2 units that can be created right away. More than that, an example is a fourplex or something like that. That can be looked at. In our report, we do discuss the proximity to Portage Avenue, that this is on a corner site. It's at the end of the block. So there is, it's something we could certainly consider. It's not like we want this to necessarily stay single family or a duplex only. It's just that would be a more compatible option in our view is R2.
Okay, so I'm just gonna ask you this, and then, you know, we'll have the opponent come back. And I don't know if this will happen, but if I were to make a motion and I wanted to make a motion for 6 units, okay, maybe blow out the basement or something, but, or whatever, 6 units, and put, like the infill guidelines suggest 28 feet, right? So if I were to make a motion that, I could do the zoning under RMFM, I could do that, make a motion to have that zoning, 6 units, 28 feet max. You'd help me work through that.
Yeah, that can work. If that was a condition on the subdivision rezoning,
Yeah.
that would be through the owner entering into a zoning agreement. So I would need to kind of rework conditions. That is another step involved for an owner and an applicant is entering into a zoning agreement on the property and registering that agreement by way of a caveat at land titles. So that does add to the timelines a little bit, in terms of how much quicker it would be to wait and then apply for a conditional use or not. I wouldn't be able to speak to that in terms of timelines, but that is an extra step involved.
Okay, well, I'm putting it out there and I'm hoping the proponent will come forward and maybe, consider that or speak to it or provide guidance if I make that motion, what would be required, or if it doesn't interest them at all. Maybe the motion will fail. I don't know, but I'm just putting it out there. Okay, I don't have any more questions of the public service.
Councillor Duncan? Okay, I have a question. The RMFM, 9,000 square feet is required. Basically, this is 1/3 less, which is not just a little bit. This is 1/3 less. So it's only 2/3 of what we generally require. So is there an RMFS or is that single? How does that work? Because right now we're trying to get, I think, too many units in such a small spot because we're trying to get an RMFM when we don't have anywhere near the square footage required. Is there another option? Or just go back to R2?
Well, if under the RMFS, that's a small zoning district.
Yeah.
So there's less density permitted than what's under RMFM.
Okay, but how much density?
Well, it's 1,250 square feet per unit is what RMFS allows.
And this is 750 what they're proposing.
Yeah.
That's huge still.
And if for the lot size, if you're adjacent to a back lane, which this is, then the lot size for RMFS is 5,000 square feet. So that would work.
That would work
in terms of the lot size.
Run that by me again.
For RMFS, residential multifamily small, its minimum lot size is 5,000 square feet.
My question is, how many units could they get in there? And is there height differences? I'm sorry for throwing this at you, but
yeah,
the height restrictions on S versus M.
Well, the height restriction on RMFS is 35 feet.
Okay.
Similar to single family or two family. In the RMFM, the height limit is like 60 feet it's been changed to 70 feet recently. Obviously they're not.
No, that would be way out of scale.
Yeah. And then if under the RMFS zoning, the density they could get or the number of units,
6,000 square feet roughly.
Yeah. I don't have this written down, but it would be 5 units, 5 dwelling units.
Well, that makes sense, yeah. Around, that would be very close to 5 units versus the 8. Okay. What would be required if we were to make a recommendation to change M to S? I'm not even sure how that's gonna work because forget, I guys said that. Any other questions?
No, I'm hoping the proponent will give some perspectives
Yes.
on either of these, so. Okay, I don't have any more questions.
More questions?
Okay, so the applicant, John Winthrop, is entitled to speak in rebuttal to comments made, but no new information is permitted, and you have up to 10 minutes for your presentation.
Thank you. I'll work backwards to address the most recent discussion here. So think of Winnipeg zoning bylaw as I call the housing in there for density, the mushy middle. R2, RF and medium, C2, and a couple of the other commercial mixed use zones all allow a density of 1 unit per 800 square feet. So you take the lot area and divide it by 800. RF and small, which is the least density. Like I can get more. That's why a lot of people like R2, because you can just go in there with a conditional use and get the same density as RF and medium and not go through the rezoning. RF and small is doesn't allow very much units on the site. I think it would be like 4 or 5. If that's the direction of the committee, I prefer you to go to R2, but I prefer RF and medium. I still need about 5 variances that are not related to the specifically to either R2 or RF and medium. I would still need, the parking is still the same requirement. The insufficient landscaping at the back of the parking lot is still the same. The insufficient building foundation landscaping, that's a part of the zoning bylaw. The lot area of 5,960 square feet, I still need that variance whether it's R2 or RF and medium. So I'm either coming back in the future with a conditional use and variances then, or I'm doing variances now and a permitted use. My clients tell me they're fine with if you want to do with 6 units at the height that Councillor Lukes was talking about, they could live with that. You can attach it as a zoning agreement that would be attached to the title and enforced. It becomes binding on the property forever. I would also suggest plan approval as a condition on any zoning agreement, because that would also is a contractual agreement that's attached to the land title. I'm more telling the audiences through the chair that it stays on title and runs with the land forever and ever and ever until it's discharged, and it can only be discharged through a public hearing process like this. That's more binding than I say a conditional use. Those are kind of things I think we're prepared to go forward to move this project. I did listen and talk to the resident next door. We'd move the building further to the north to increase it by 2 feet to make that side yard up to, I believe, 8 feet now. That's something we'd be able to work with. And I appreciate, again, the residents coming out and speaking today. I respect anyone who comes forward and wants to provide a different opinion, but we'll continue to work with people after the public hearing to advance things. I've always done that, and I don't take it personally. I will touch on snow clearing. I love snow clearing. My dad worked for City of Winnipeg for 45 years clearing snow out in St. James, so I know a lot about snowing. I used to get dropped off in a grader at Arthur Oliver School on School Road there in a grader. My family's being out in St. James, living out there. The Scott family dates back to the Selkirk settlers. The Winthrops have been out there since the 1890s. My great-grandfather owned a house on Library Place, and my grandfather rode horses around where St. James School is before they built houses out there. The community has evolved. It's always evolved. It's always allowed housing. If my ancestors didn't want housing and stopped it, it'd still be all farmland and pasture land. They accepted housing. I'm hoping the community will accept housing, the people who move into the area as we continue to evolve and grow out in St. James. I do appreciate it and their comments today, and we'd hope to continue working with them to address concerns they have. But I don't see snow storage being an issue on the property. We're not here to provide snow storage for the back lane. We're here to provide, on-site snow storage. It wasn't mentioned, but I will quickly add, there's something called the lot grading bylaw plan in the City of Winnipeg. The first step right after an approval from council would be an engineer from the private sector is engaged to draw up and certify a lot grading plan that's submitted to the City of Winnipeg engineers who review it and stamp it. That is the very first step we do. According to lot grading, all the water accumulated on our site has to stay on our site. and drain into the city system. We're not doing overland draining. We're not draining into somebody else's property. The bylaw clearly states that there is enforcement. I've been involved in a previous license in enforcement actions on people who are not adhering to that bylaw. It's pretty strict. Water is an issue for everybody. This property owner, as well as the neighbors, as well as the city of Winnipeg, we all share that same concern. And we have rules and regulations and engineers in place who will govern and regulate that, including where snow is being put and where it's draining and when it's melting. I think those are some of my comments. I think other people have addressed before. We will meet the building code. We will meet the any other construction standards required to make sure this is safe housing that is constructed here. We will work with the neighbor next door when it comes to construction timing, because we appreciate the fact that he's got a young family. And I'm a dog walker too. I walk around Osborne Village all the time with my dog, and I think there's a lot more traffic there. Though I do appreciate people who are out walking their dogs, that we hope to also make sure it's safe, and that the people living in this building too will be pet owners also walking around in the neighborhood as well and contributing to the life and livelihood of the neighborhood. I'm open to any kind of questions.
Councilor Lewis, yeah.
Okay, so just to be clear, if it is RFM, at 28 feet, you're still requiring those variances.
Yeah, I still need even if you change the R2, I still need all the variances
Right.
for everything else.
Right. Okay.
Insufficient landscaping, there's 2 variances for the lack of landscaping because I'm taking cars directly off the back lane like everybody else along that back lane. That's 2 of my variances alone. I have a variance for no unassigned guest parking spaces instead of 1. If I had put a V on one of the stalls, I could have eliminated that variance. At that point, after several months, I just ran out of steam and just please process me. I need the north side yard is 10 feet. We might have to come back if we move the building over and make that to 8 feet and increase the south side yard from 6 to 8 feet. It's still required 12 feet, but we'd be okay with. You can't change that 10-foot north side yard, but you can make the south side yard 8 feet now. I'd have to come back for a minor variance then for the north side yard, which is against the lane. The lot area per dwelling unit, I still need that, whether it's R2, RF, medium. The lot area would be the only variance that would change if I changed it to R2. So walking through the list, I pretty much need all the variances except for 1.
Okay.
And again, we're very agreeable to a zoning agreement to restrict the height of the building, restrict the number of units, and to move the building if you want to make it 8 feet from the south property line. And plan approval. I'd like to come back for plan approval. I'd like to engage with the neighbor about fencing and landscaping along that south side yard. Some neighbors don't want fencing. I'm seeing that more and more where they prefer to see landscaping instead of the 6-foot tall barrier fence. There's an existing fence there on the neighbor's land that's, we could look at working with him to improve that fencing, or we can remove it and do our own fencing, but that's a discussion I think we'd like to have with the neighbor. Then come forward at a plan approval in front of the community committee at a public meeting, hopefully in harmony.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
I have no more questions.
Thank you.
Okay, now what?
You'd like to move motions?
Motion.
Anybody want to move a motion?
Well, I'm gonna throw one out there.
See how that pans out.
Okay. So, Mr. Clerk, I don't know, you can help me write this up. I would like to make a motion to rezone to RFM I believe it is.
Yes, that's what it is.
RMFM. I'd like to have a zoning agreement restricting the height and the number of units to 6 units. To have a plan approval to make the south side 8 feet. And I believe that's, if you can work that up in a motion, or I guess.
What was the height?
28 feet?
Which is the same as
Yeah, infill guidelines.
infill guidelines.
I have wording from the planner, so I think everything in there that you had sent to Robert would be covered off, just adding that change to the in 2A2, the maximum height shall not exceed 28 feet. Is that what it was?
Yeah, that sounds like what it was.
Okay, so just so that I understand before the committee comes to motions, there would be a change in, would be replacing, or sorry, amending recommendation 1 to refer to Schedule C instead of Schedule D. Okay, and then this. Oh, and the map change. Sorry, when you say change to the map date?
Oh, yes, yeah, that's just in, just that there's a date that would need to change with the map, in condition 1, so it should.
So recommendation 1 should reference the map dated September 12th.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. And then schedule.
Before we go too much further, moving at the whole property or moving the unit to the north 2 feet is now you'll only have 8.5 feet instead of 12 feet on the north side. And that's still, what's the scoop on that? That's on the back lane side.
On the back.
Well, I thought we were going to move the south side yard to 8 feet instead of 6. So that means you're shuffling everything north. So you're actually taking the unit and you're moving the whole house 2 feet to the north. So now your north side yard would be 8.5 feet instead of 10.5. So, and that would be okay along the back lane.
I don't think we would have a concern with that setback. That would just need to be changed in the variance.
Okay, the picture of the car may not fit now. If you move it 2 feet, that's my concern. The car that was parked alongside the back lane, you just lost 2 feet. That's something to consider. So then your parking would no longer be 7, it would be 6. If that was an issue. Thought I'd point it out. Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
Okay, so. So just to confirm, Robert, Councillor Lukes, when we get to that motion, is going to propose RMFM with a maximum height of 28 feet, a maximum number of units of 6, and a small change to the date of the map.
Yeah.
Attached as Schedule C. Schedule D will become Schedule C.
Yeah.
And then the requirement for a zoning agreement with plan approval coming back to the Assiniboia Community Committee. And
and we restrict the number of units
to 6, yes. And then a change to recommendation 8.
Yeah.
To reflect the caveat.
Yeah, to reference the zoning.
Okay.
I mean, I'm honestly, I would put a ratio of 1 to 1 unit if people are concerned about the closeness of that. But because we're like so close to transit, we're so close to Portage Avenue.
Yeah, if there's a limit of 6 units, do they meet the 7 stall?
It just changed the parking ratio. Everyone.
They wouldn't be able to put 7 anyway. The other one alongside the back lane probably would be next because it's too close.
But I'm looking at the plan here and it's 8 units and 7 stalls. So if it's 6 and 6, that's.
The parking ratio would be 1 to 1.
It would be 6 and 6, 1 would be gone.
Yeah.
Because you moved the building.
Yeah.
But could it be better?
It would be 1 to 1.
Yeah.
Right, better ratio.
So let's work that in. That'll be my motion. Can we work that in?
That would be a variance, I believe, right? So we would change, so the public service is recommending rejection of the variance.
Mhm.
So if the committee wanted to approve the variance, but with a change to the number of parking spaces from, so 6 parking spaces instead of the required 10 for RMFM.
Yeah, and I mean, the 10 wouldn't be what's actually required if there's only, like, if the zoning agreement says you can only, if it's a 6-plex, like if it's 6 units being proposed, then the requirement would go down.
Right.
But that,
But it still would have a variance of some sort.
yeah, it would, unless they had all 7 of what they're showing here.
And sorry, would any of the other aspects of the variance that was applied for require a change based on what's being proposed with respect to the zoning and the maximum height of the building and the 7?
Well, put it out there.
They applied for 7 though, so
I mean,
Yeah.
if you want to leave 7 in, I'm fine with 7, but if we're worried about how close it is to the back lane. So, but I'll put the motion out there first to include 7 and we'll see where it lands.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would.
on the variance.
Yeah.
The variance.
Okay, so do you want to read that through then?
Would you like to start with the report of the public service counselor?
Sure. Okay. Okay, so that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
That the receipt of the public representations be concluded.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. That the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in with amendments.
Yes, so based on my understanding of the committee's intent, the planner has put forward suggested changes to the wording. So recommendation 1 would be amended to read that the subdivision proposed under development application number DASZ 42 of 2024 be approved for preparation as plan of subdivision, the plan, by a Manitoba land surveyor for registration in the Winnipeg Land Titles Office in accordance with the proposed bylaw attached as Appendix A to this report and shown on the map dated September 12th, 2024, and attached as Schedule C to this report, as amended in accordance with the report of the Administrative Coordinating Group, dated October 21st, 2024, and with such minor changes as may be required. Changing recommendation 2 so that it reads that the Winnipeg zoning bylaw number 200 of 2006 be amended by rezoning the subject land to an RMFM PDO1 airport vicinity residential multifamily medium district, and in accordance with the proposed bylaw attached as Appendix B to this report and as shown on the map dated September 12th, 2024 and attached as Schedule C to this report, subject to the following conditions: that the developer enter into a zoning agreement with the city pursuant to subsection 241 of the City of Winnipeg Charter in accordance with the following. The owner must submit plans showing the location and design and any involved proposed buildings, accessory parking areas, private approaches, garbage enclosures, fencing, landscaping, and freestanding signage on the owner's land, works to the city for approval by the Director of Planning, Property and Development and the Assiniboia Community Committee prior to the issuance of any building or development permit, and therefore must construct the works in substantial conformance with the approved plans and maintain the works to the satisfaction of the director. 2, that the maximum height of any building shall not exceed 28 feet. Right?
Yes.
Okay. That the number of dwelling units shall be limited to a maximum of 6 dwelling units. And B, that the city enter into execute and deliver with the developer a zoning agreement in accordance with recommendation 2A and other such agreements as determined necessary by the city solicitor, director of legal services to implement the intent of the foregoing. C, the authority be delegated to the Director of Planning, Property and Development to negotiate and approve the terms and conditions of the zoning agreement and any ancillary agreements in accordance with this report and other such terms and conditions determined necessary by the city solicitor / Director of Legal Services to protect the interests of the city. And replacing the current recommendation 8 with the following: that the zoning section of the bylaw will come into force when the zoning agreement is registered with the Land Titles Office by way of caveat against the lands described therein. And then that would be, all the other recommendations would remain the same, and that would be forwarded to the Standing Policy Committee on Property and Development. If that.
And that's the motion?
Councilor intent?
Yep, that's the motion.
Okay, all those
Oh,
in.
yeah.
oh,
Do
You're
you have
done?
to say anything else here?
Not yet.
Okay,
Or I don't think you do supporting
Do
reasons.
you have
My
to-
supporting
yeah,
reasons.
Supporting reasons.
Supporting reasons
Or-
first? Okay.
Right, so my supporting reasons. So, my supporting reasons are, I see this as a gentle infill in the neighborhood. We need to increase housing in the city of Winnipeg. This is an opportunity on a corner lot, which is most desirable to add gentle density to. And, for those reasons, that's my motion.
Okay, yes.
I'll be supporting Councillor Luke's motion. I want to add in that, the residents that spoke today did talk about massing adjacent to their properties and the height being a concern, and that has been addressed with the 8-foot cap, and then maxing the units to 6 as well brings down that density to fit more in context with the neighborhood, keeping in mind that it is on a lane on a corner lot within 150 feet, I believe it is, of Portage Avenue.
And my comments, I think it's absolutely awesome that we brought literally from 38 feet down to 28 feet, which is infill housing. And this happens all over the place right now. From 8 units down to 6 is much superior. The parking is basically 1-to-1 for sure, which is no different than the 25-foot lots we're putting up right now. Reduced density is what the neighborhood was watching. Although I think this is a little too much, this time I'm going to support it because it's on a corner and it's right beside bus stops, access to the back lane, and the developer did listen to the residents. So therefore, I'm good. All those in favor?
Sorry, can I just ask one question of the planner? I noticed in the language, so right now our appendix as listed is Appendix A. And we've flipped it to Appendix B to this report.
Oh. Okay, I'm just looking at what,
Like on the proposed bylaws Appendix A on
Yeah.
the agenda, and it just,
oh, it should remain Appendix A.
okay,
Sorry.
that's what I,
Yeah, okay.
okay. Okay, and it's shown, okay, perfect, thank you. Sorry about that, councillors.
Okay, that's the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion's carried.
That the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion's carried.
Please note that the committee has made a recommendation on this matter that will now proceed to council. No further representations are permitted on the subdivision and rezoning, and all persons registered for the public hearing will receive notice when the matter is to be considered by council. And so now the variance.
So now the variances. So now, do I have to change anything in the variances related to this? The variances will remain,
Gotta read them.
that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That in accordance
Okay.
with subsection 2473 of the City of Winnipeg Charter, the variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg and any applicable secondary plan, does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining property and adjacent area, including an area separated from the property by a street or waterway, is the minimum modification of a zoning bylaw required to relieve the injurious effect of the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property, and is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated.
All those in favor?
Sorry, and the supporting reason.
My supporting reasons are again, gentle density to add to our housing stock in an area that really needs new housing, close to Portage Avenue, countless amenities in the area. So those are my reasons.
Any other supporting them? Okay, that's it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion's carried.
So now that the recommendations of the Winnipeg Public Service be not, so this is where I'm not sure.
Not be concurred.
Not be concurred in, and the variances be,
Just to confirm, are you looking to approve the variances applied for? And also Is there anything that needs to change based on the proposed rezoning?
The only thing that I would recommend not approving is the variance 1B, the lot area per dwelling. That would not.
Yeah, that wouldn't apply.
That wouldn't apply anyway, and then, you know, like to grant them approval for that while also having in the zoning, we should just, I would recommend striking that.
Yeah, because the numbers are wrong now.
Okay, so the motion from Councillor Lukes would be to not concur in the recommendation of the public service and that the application for a variance be approved as follows.
B, C, and D are both wrong because the south side yard and the north side yard. Am I correct in this? What is that?
I don't. Was that,
No, we changed the south side to 8 feet, so that's gonna change the north side, but they're still gonna need a variance.
yeah, because anything more than 12 feet is gonna need a variance.
But it currently reads 6 feet and 10.5 feet.
Yes.
So it does need to change.
So it'd be 8.
Yeah, so that can be, I think it's approved as amended or approved as modified.
Right, so just to confirm, like they would be approving one for the construction of a multifamily dwelling unit to permit a lot area of 5,973 square feet, 554.9 square meters, that would stay.
Yeah.
Okay. Removing B, the lot area per dwelling of 746 square feet.
Yeah.
Okay. Keeping C, a south side yard of 6 feet, 1.82 meters.
Modifying it. It's gotta be 8 feet instead of 6
Yeah.
from the south side.
Yeah.
So sorry, Robert.
Oh, 8 feet if that's what the committee's decided.
8 feet, is what we said.
Okay, and the conversion.
Oh, you're.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Metric system came in the euros for 2.43 meters was 8 feet.
Okay, so C would become a south side yard of 8 feet, 2.43 meters. And D needs a change as well,
So that would be 8.5.
8.5 feet, okay,
Is that?
for the north side yard.
Yeah.
And that would be how many meters?
2.59 meters.
Okay. And then E would remain insufficient building foundation landscaping.
Yes.
Okay. F would remain 7 parking spaces instead of the 10.
Yeah.
Okay. And then 2 for the establishment of an open parking area to permit A, no unassigned guest parking spaces.
That would remain as far as I
And
know.
B, insufficient buffering of a parking or loading area located within 20 feet, 6.1 meters of a side rear lot line adjacent to a residential district.
Yeah, that remains.
Okay. Okay, and that covers the intent of the committee as read. That would be the variance that is being approved.
Okay, so that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be not concurred in and the variance be approved.
As
amended.
As read by the clerk.
That's okay. All those in favor?
Um,
Aye, motion's carried.
that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion is carried.
Please note that the committee's decision with respect to this application may be appealed. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the order issued, which will be mailed to all persons registered.
Okay, do we have any other business? No, I guess not. Motion to
Okay,
adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion, or meeting is adjourned. Yeah.